Chapter 491. Give her to this princess. The eldest princess looked at him with a complicated expression. Her eyes fell onto the person in his arms and she reached out to take her, but Chu Xiaoyang was not willing to let go. Where is her room? This king will take her there. Royal aunt, I don't dare bother you. His voice was filled with resentment. Humph. Come with me. The eldest princess had a cold expression as she looked at Qin Ning with worry. She walked to the back courtyard. When the three of them came out of the door, Xiaoru saw Qin Ning in Chu Xiaoyang's arms and cried out in shock, "Young miss. Bad Highness, let go of my young miss." She charged forward. Chu Xiaoyang waved his sleeve and a hidden force pushed her far away. He took large steps as he carried Qin Ning, charging into the back courtyard. The doctor quickly arrived. The one who came was the most experienced doctor in the yard. He had a white beard and there was a little eunuch carrying a medicine box behind him. The old doctor sat in front of the bed to take Qin Ning's pulse. Chu Xiaoyang's eyes looked over the little eunuch's face and he gave a cold snort. The eldest princess did not notice. She just stared at Qin Ning with an anxious expression. Dr. Zhang, what kind of illness does Ning have? Why did she suddenly faint? Finally waiting for the old doctor to take her pulse, she immediately asked in an impatient voice. Reporting to the eldest princess, the princess consort is fine. She was just too excited and her blood rushed to her head, so she fainted. As long as she rests for a bit, she will wake up. Woo, only. After the old doctor said this, he suddenly knit his brows. He looked like he wanted to say something, but stopped himself. Only what? Quickly say it. The eldest princess' heart that had just calmed down came back as she urged him. This old man is just guessing from her pulse. The princess consort's heart pulse is very chaotic, as if her heart has been greatly shaken and stimulated. She will feel pain in her chest after she wakes up, so this old man will prescribe a medicine that will help the princess consort calm her heart. The old doctor spoke in a very cautious manner. Then quickly prescribed the medicine. When Chu Xiaoyang heard this, he immediately said in an urgent voice. The old doctor raised his blurred old eyes and looked over Chu Xiaoyang without leaving a trace. He turned to the eldest princess and said, when the princess consort wakes up, remember not to make her excited again, otherwise she will faint again. If the princess consort is stimulated again, it will be harmful to her body. Moreover, other than the princess consort heart pulse being unstable, she seems to have been frightened. She seems to be afraid of something. She seems to be afraid of something. She must be afraid of something. When the eldest princess heard this, she couldn't help glaring at Chu Xiaoyang and saying, "Many thanks, Dr. Zhang. Please write the prescription immediately." Chu Xiaoyang's face turned livid and his cold eyes stared at the back of the old doctor writing the prescription. He really wanted to slap the doctor's teeth out. This old thing, what's something she shouldn't of something? Consort of something. What he was implying was that he had scared Ning Er to the point of fainting, and that he was slandering him. Ning had fainted from excitement after hearing his passionate confession. When she woke up, he would definitely not use such an intense method to express his deep feelings in the depths of his heart. He wanted to slowly, bit by bit, tell her just how much he cared about her. His heart was filled with her figure. Chapter 492. Since she couldn't stand the intense stimulation, he would learn to be gentle with her. He wanted to remove the shadow of that man in her heart, not leaving a single trace behind. Ning Er, when you wake up, this king will not speak loudly to you or scare you anymore. When I said that I would dig out my heart for you to see, you must be scared and anxious, right? That's why you couldn't take it and fainted, right? Chu Xiaoyang revealed a gentle smile. He sat on the bed and held her hand, placing it on his chest, letting her feel his strong heartbeat. Although she was unconscious and couldn't hear what he said, His voice was as gentle as a slowly flowing spring. The eldest princess couldn't help shaking the goosebumps on her body. She looked at Chu Xiaoyang like she was looking at a stranger. How was this the cold-faced King Ding Yuan she knew? The words he said really made people feel numb hearing it, but which woman didn't like hearing it? When you saw the finger I sent into the palace, you must have been scared, right? Actually, this king did not cut off that girl's finger. She is the maid by your side and your person, so this king will not hurt her. I just wanted to scare you and make you quickly return to this king's side. If it wasn't for someone taking you away, you wouldn't have become like this. After he said this, he raised his head and looked at the eldest princess with a hateful gaze. The eldest princess said with a cold expression, "The doctor said that Ning can't be stimulated anymore. Chu Xiaoyang, you should quickly leave, otherwise Ning will faint again when she wakes up." Humph, that doctor is speaking nonsense, Royal Aunt even believes him. Ning likes me, did you see how excited she was just now? When she wakes up, the first person she wants to see will be me. Chu Xiaoyang confidently gripped her hand. He did not wait for the eldest princess to speak before coldly looking at the little eunuch who was carrying the medicine box and not saying a word. He said in a cold voice, "Xiaoxi, do you think that with your head down, this king won't recognize you? Go back and tell your master that this king doesn't need anyone else to care about his woman. Let him worry about his own matters." The little eunuch's body trembled and he slowly raised his head, revealing a delicate face and a pair of dark and lively eyes. He calmly bowed to Chu Xiaoyang, "This servant will only listen to the emperor's orders." "Your Highness' words, I ask your Highness to personally tell the emperor." Chu Xiaoyang gave a snort, "This king will personally tell the emperor that this king is praising you too much. You are just a dog raised by your master that only knows how to bark and doesn't know how to speak." Xiaoxi's face instantly turned red and he angrily lowered his head. Although his heart was filled with hatred, he could only secretly grit of his teeth. This was because the other party's status was much higher than his. Even if he was someone close to the emperor, he was just a lowly little eunuch, a dog servant in the eyes of others. What qualifications did he have to challenge the noble and illustrious prince? "Xiao Xiao Xiao Ti." Xiao Ru suddenly pointed at him and shouted. Her black and bright eyes opened wide and her round face was filled with a look of pleasant surprise. Xiaoxi raised his head, the anger on his face still not fading. He forced a smile at her, but it was a very awkward smile, but he did not say anything. Chapter 493. However, he had a good impression of this straightforward and simple-minded little girl. He never thought that they would meet again in this kind of situation, especially when he was being scolded like a dog. Xiaoxi, why are you wearing the clothes of a eunuch? Where's your master? Where's lots of money? Oh, no, he's not lots of money, he's hay. Before Xiao Ru could finish, Xiaoxi suddenly shot forward and covered her mouth. "Miss Xiao Ru, it's better if we talk outside. We can't wake the princess consort here, right?" Xiaoxi dragged her out the door. Xiao Ru struggled to spit out a few words, "Woo, I don't. I want to watch over the young miss. With the eldest princess watching over her, nothing will happen to your young miss. Not to mention the doctor said that she will wake up after a bit of sleep. Be obedient, we'll talk outside." Xiaoxi half coaxed and half persuaded Xiao Ru to leave. His heart almost jumped out of his throat just now. Xiao Ru's big mouth, she almost said that his master had disguised himself as a guard in the king's palace. If Chu Xiaoyang knew this, where would his master's face as the emperor be? Although he managed to pull Xiao Ru away in time, Chu Xiaoyang's face still sunk and his brows knit together. He was wondering what Xiao Ru's unfinished words meant. What lots of money? Could it be? He couldn't help looking out the door and his brows knit even tighter. The eldest princess was also filled with suspicion, but she didn't think too much about it. At this moment, a maid came in with a bowl of medicine. She picked it up and said, "This princess will feed it." But she had been raised like a princess. When had she ever done something like serving people? That bowl of medicine was very hot and her hand trembled, almost spilling it. "Be careful." Chu Xiaoyang's hands moved and he caught the bowl of medicine. That hot medicine spilled onto the back of his hand and it instantly turned red, but it seemed like he didn't feel any pain at all as he held the bowl of medicine firmly. "Let me feed it." He took a small silver spoon from the maid and scooped up a small spoonful of medicine. He slowly blew on it and then brought it to his lips to test the temperature. Then he carefully brought it to Qin Ning's lips and fed it a little at a time. Spoonful after spoonful, he carefully blew on each spoonful before feeding it to her. That gentle and focused look stunned everyone, including the eldest princess. The maids all looked at the unconscious Qin Ning with gazes of envy. They were all envious of her good fortune. The eldest princess' heart was filled with an indescribable feeling. She opened her mouth and felt that her eyes were slightly wet. She turned her face away and sighed silently. If a man could do this much for a woman, then he would definitely love her to the extreme. "Ning, Ning Ning, you. Ning, you, Ning, you. But how unfortunate you are to be loved by such a man." Chen were, Chen Chu, Chen, I, of someone I, of Ling, Ning, said. Chen, did I of I. The eldest princess suddenly felt a chill run down her spine. She simply didn't dare imagine what would happen. After Chu Xiaoyang fed her the medicine, he took out a white handkerchief and wiped the medicine from the corner of her mouth. Then he quietly sat on the side, waiting for her to wake up. The eldest princess felt that she could no longer scold him or chase him away. Chapter 494. 4. O. U. Ewu. X. OE. 6T. Plus. T. W. 1/X. O. As Ning's legitimate husband, it was only right and proper for him to stay here. No one would be able to find fault with him. Furthermore, what he had just done had already exceeded everyone's understanding. No one would have thought that the high and mighty King Ding Yuan would actually personally feed his princess medicine. In this era, men were superior to women. Men were the heavens and women were the earth. Men could have 3 wives and 4 concubines, but women could only be faithful to one. They had to do everything they could to make their husband happy and they had to be gentle and considerate. But even if it was like this, they couldn't escape the tragic fate of breaking their love as they grew older. For someone like Chu Xiaoyang, who had a high position, to swear in front of everyone that he would only marry one person in his life, this could be said to be a unique matter in the West Chu country. It was also because of this that the eldest princess was shocked and moved. She couldn't guarantee that Yiting Xian would treat her the same and never change his heart. Dr. Zhang, she has already drunk the medicine, why hasn't she woken up yet? The eldest princess waited for a while and finally couldn't help scolding the old doctor. The old doctor shivered and quickly said, "Eldest princess, don't be anxious. Wait for this old man to take the princess consort's pulse." She walked in front of the bed and saw that Chu Xiaoyang was firmly standing in front of the bed, not moving at all. He looked at the eldest princess with an awkward expression. Xiaoyang, move aside. Let Dr. Zhang take Ning Her's pulse. The eldest princess' tone toward Chu Xiaoyang couldn't help becoming a bit more gentle. She no longer angrily tried to chase him away. Chu Xiaoyang nodded and stood beside the eldest princess. He stared right at Qin Ning without blinking, not even looking at the people around him. Seeing him like this, the eldest princess gave a sigh in her heart. She silently looked away and looked at the old doctor. Rafter the old imperial physician was done with his left hand, right hand, and both hands. He closed his eyes and began to ponder silently. Strange, strange. He muttered. What's strange? Didn't you say that Ning would wake up soon after taking the medicine? Did something happen again? Or is there a problem with the medicine you gave her? Chu Xiaoyang looked at him in doubt. No, no. The old doctor looked at Chu Xiaoyang and shook his head. Chu Xiaoyang impatiently grabbed the old doctor's collar. What's wrong? The old doctor coughed from being choked, but his eyes were still staring at Chu Xiaoyang. The reason why the princess consort hasn't woken up is because your highness is here. I dare you to say it again. Xiaoyang, let go of Dr. Zhang. If you continue to be rude to Dr. Zhang, this princess will not be polite to you. This is this princess palace, not a place for King Ding Yuan. Chu Xiaoyang to act mighty. The eldest princess angrily rebuked. She took a step forward and saved the old doctor from Chu Xiaoyang's hands. Dr. Zhang, this stinky brat is rude, you don't need to care about him. Tell this princess, why hasn't the princess consort woken up? She stared at the old doctor. The old doctor took a few breaths and angrily glared at Chu Xiaoyang. He angrily said, this old man said before that the princess consort has someone she doesn't want to see, so she subconsciously doesn't want to wake up. As long as the person she doesn't want to see leaves this place, the princess consort will wake up soon. Chapter 495 B 3 1 *8 I Z C N C T 8 29 Voy NLFP 5 The Empress Dowager and the Emperor, he had already stopped visiting. Not to mention the Ding Yuan princess being sick. Even if King Ding Yuan was sick, he wouldn't need to personally make a move. Now he was being strangled by King Ding Yuan. This was simply a great humiliation to him. He was not afraid of Chu Xiaoyang at all. When Chu Xiaoyang heard this, he couldn't help gritting his teeth. He angrily glared at him. Rotten old man, what are you saying? The old doctor did not even look at him. He cupped his hands at the eldest princess and said, Eldest princess, this old man needs to return to the palace to report to the Empress Dowager, so I'll be leaving now. Someone, send Dr. Zhang out. The eldest princess was very respectful and polite to the old imperial physician. She sent someone to respectfully send the old imperial physician to the carriage back to the palace. Turning around, she coldly looked at Chu Xiaoyang. Xiaoyang, you've heard the doctor's words and this princess doesn't want to repeat them. If you really want Ning Er's good, then leave this place first. Once Ning Er's body recovers, you can come see her again. Someone, send the guest off. Although the scene of Chu Xiaoyang feeding Qin Ning medicine had touched her, thinking of the old doctor's words, she could only harden her heart and send Chu Xiaoyang away. Chu Xiaoyang's face turned red and his handsome face was filled with anger, but he suppressed it and said in a calm voice, Royal aunt, do you believe that rotten old man's words? He was clearly sent by the emperor. This king does not believe a single word he says. This princess can trust Dr. Zhang's character. He is not the kind of person who would randomly talk about his medical skills because of someone else's orders. This princess believes what he said. Ning might not want to see you for now, but if you really want her good, why are you in such a rush? You should understand the meaning of the words. There's still a long way to go. The eldest princess tried her best to persuade him. Chu Xiaoyang was silent as he silently looked at the unconscious Qin Ning. She was quietly lying there like she was asleep. Her face was like snow, making people feel pity for her. Ri's heart felt stuffy, like it was swollen and filled with an indescribable pain. Arichi really wanted to treat her well, but why didn't anyone believe in him? Even the royal aunt who was closest to him didn't believe him. Was it really because of him that she refused to wake up so stubbornly? She didn't want to see him. She clearly saw what he wanted to see in her eyes. Alright, Imperial Aunt, I'm leaving. I'll have to trouble you to take good care of her and tell her that Benwang will visit her again tomorrow. He looked at her deeply once more, then turned around and strode away, never looking back. The moment he turned around, the eldest princess suddenly noticed that Qin Ning's long eyelashes were like butterfly wings, gently trembling. Could it be that she had already woken up a long time ago? She did not make a sound as she sat in front of the bed, quietly staring at Qin Ning, who seemed to be asleep. When Chu Xiaoyang's footsteps could no longer be heard, she gave a faint sigh. You can all leave. She waved her hand and all the maids in the room left. The room was very quiet. There was only her and Qin Ning. They could even hear each other's breathing. He's already gone. Ning, you can wake up now, she said in a gentle voice. Qin Ning's eyelashes slowly raised. Her eyes were filled with confusion, as if there were ripples in them. Chapter 496. %R6A. X5. HTJ. Q. VA0_. Y0. 1 LP. Y7. 3. F. Pulling her hand, she said in an uncaring voice, Ning, tell this princess, why did you suddenly faint? Did you faint on purpose because you didn't want to see him? I didn't do it on purpose. At that time, I suddenly felt my heart beating fast and I couldn't breathe. After that, I didn't know anything. Qin Ning looked into the eldest princess' eyes and spoke in a serious voice. Her eyes were calm. She wasn't lying. Just before she fainted, a sudden heartache almost took her breath away in an instant, causing her to lose consciousness. It really was strange. She raised her hand and pressed it against her chest. She felt that the inexplicable throbbing of her heart had returned to normal, and her breathing had also calmed down. Actually not long after Chu Xiaoyang fed her the medicine, she had already woken up. She wanted to open her eyes immediately, but when she heard Chu Xiaoyang's voice, she subconsciously didn't want to wake up. She let herself keep her eyes closed. She didn't want to see him and she didn't want to hear his voice. As long as he said those emotional words and looked at his emotional eyes, her heart would strangely beat, making it hard for her to breathe. The eldest princess nodded. She patted the back of her hand and said, Ning, if you don't want to see him, this princess can give the order that he is not allowed to enter the palace in the future. You can stay here forever. However, I feel that Xiaoyang's feelings for you are quite sincere. Perhaps he did something wrong, but can you really not forgive him, forgive? How could she forgive him? Qin Ning bit her lips. She had been moved by him once and forgiven him for all the things he did to her in the past, but what she got in return was even more violent treatment from him. The love he kept saying, it was just taking and taking, not giving or respecting at all. If this was Chu Xiaoyang's love, she couldn't accept it and she didn't want it. Alright, you don't need to say anything else. This princess understands and I will give the order to not let him take a single step into my princess palace. The eldest princess could guess her thoughts from her expression. She felt sorry for Chu Xiaoyang, but she was also worried for Qin Ning. Although Chu Xiaoyang's love was strong, his hatred was also strong. If he knew that he couldn't obtain the thing he was searching for, he might destroy her at all costs. It seemed like she needed to send more people to protect Qin Ning. She couldn't give Chu Xiaoyang any chance. But Chu Xiaoyang's martial arts were very good. Compared to Chu Xiaoyang's guards, they were all useless. If Chu Xiaoyang really wanted to come, she had no way of stopping him. After thinking for a long time, there was only one way. She was going to ask her brother, the Emperor, for help. In the first place, this matter had arisen because of him. Naturally, it would fall to him to solve it. The eldest princess wrote a letter and sent it to the imperial palace. Then she stayed by Chen Ning's side. As the two of them talked, it unknowingly became late. Where's Xiao Ru? Chen Ning suddenly found that Xiao Ru wasn't by her side. You mean that little girl? The eldest princess thought about it and said, that's right, she was brought to the courtyard by the little eunuch called Xiao Si by Big Brother Emperor's side. It's been a while, why hasn't she come back yet? Xiao Si. Chen Ning's heart skipped a beat. Chapter 497. W. 4. C. H asterisk. KK. U. G. 4. Hashtag B. N. W. N. %. Look. She got up from the bed and quickly ran out the door. Ning, slow down. You just woke up, you. The eldest princess followed behind her. When she saw Chen Ning, she suddenly stopped and looked in a direction in the yard. She followed Chen Ning's gaze and saw that in the corner of the stone steps, there was a boy and a girl sitting side by side. The young man had a delicate and fair face, and his eyes were bright and shiny. He was gesticulating as he talked about something. His eyebrows were dancing, and he seemed to be in high spirits. The girl beside him had her chin in her hand as she stared at the young man beside her. Her round face was filled with surprise and admiration. It was unknown what joke Xiao Si told, but Xiao Ru began to giggle. Her eyes turned into crescent moons and Xiao Si's eyes also turned into crescent moons. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Their smiles were filled with innocence, and a youthful aura assaulted one's senses. Chen Ning let out a soft sigh and a faint smile appeared on her lips. Seeing the two young smiling faces, her mood became bright and it drove away the haze Chu Xiaoyang had left in her heart. It had been a long time since she had seen this kind of carefree smile on Xiao Ru's face. If Xiao Si could make her smile like this, it wouldn't be bad. She slowly turned around with a faint smile and did not disturb them. Turning around, she saw the eldest princess who also had a moved expression on her face. The two of them looked at each other and revealed a smile. Ning, I think the girl beside you and Xiao Si get along well. Did they know each other before? Returning to the room, the eldest princess couldn't hold back her curiosity and casually asked this question. Actually, what she wanted to ask was, did you know my brother Emperor before? But she was too embarrassed to ask this. Although she had a straightforward personality, she was not a stupid person. She could already feel that the relationship between the Emperor and Chen Ning was not as simple as she thought it was. Chen Ning was very smart, she knew that the eldest princess had already guessed it. She pondered for a bit before bowing down to the eldest princess. Eldest princess, you've saved me again and again, I shouldn't have hidden anything from you. But this matter, I never told you because I didn't know that the Mo Chuan I knew was the Emperor. You and my royal brother met in the royal study, it wasn't the first time. Then you really did know each other before. The eldest princess was very surprised. She helped Chen Ning up and pulled her to sit on the edge of the bed. Her eyes were filled with interest. Good little sister, quickly tell me, what is going on? How did you meet? This story must be very good. She was beaming with joy and excitement. Chen Ning never thought that the eldest princess would be this interested in the matter between her and Mo Chuan. She couldn't help laughing. It seemed that it was human nature to love gossip. Men loved it, women loved it too. Even someone as straightforward as the eldest princess was no exception. But how could this matter be explained in a few words? Especially in this kind of situation, it was like a messy sesame ball, even she couldn't see where the way out was. Although the eldest princess was good and wholeheartedly protected her, could she protect her for a lifetime? Not to mention living under someone else's roof was not a long-term solution. She had to rely on herself and escape the shackles that fate had placed on her. Chapter 498. F. 05N1. 6. N. R. U. U. E. F. R. When she first met Imo Chuan, she couldn't help sighing. At that time, how could she have thought that a quick meeting would lead to so many things happening? But these things, should she tell the eldest princess the whole story? Eldest princess, let the emperor personally tell you this story, all right? She spoke in a gentle voice as she looked at the eldest princess with an apologetic smile. Because she really didn't know what to say. She didn't know why Imo Chuan would disguise himself as a guard and follow her, saving her again and again. She didn't even know when Imo Chuan had fallen in love with her. This was a mystery to her. The eldest princess suddenly gave a sigh and said, if he was willing to say it, this princess wouldn't have asked you. But, even if you want to say it now, there are people who won't let you say it. She winked at Chin Ning and said with a smile, look, someone's looking at you. Chin Ning raised her head and was surprised to find that there was another person in the room. He was wearing black clothes and silently standing in the shadows of the room, as quiet as a shadow. Chin Ning bit her lips and silently looked at him. Although he was wearing a human skin mask, she could recognize him with a single glance. Imo Chuan. When did he come? She didn't know at all. Coming without a shadow and leaving without a trace, this was probably a person like him. He took off the high and mighty dragon robe that symbolized his status, and once again put on the black clothes that he wore when he was her bodyguard. That kind of intimate and familiar feeling came rushing at her. Ri's deep and bottomless eyes stared at her without blinking. His chin was tight and he didn't say a word. He clearly knew that she was looking at him, but he still didn't say a word. The eldest princess looked at this and then at that. She found that the two of them were looking at each other and neither of them were looking at her. All right. If you have something to say, then say it. This princess is an extra person and won't listen to you. She suppressed her curiosity and unwillingly walked out. When she reached the door, she couldn't help looking back at Imo Chuan. Then she pushed open the door and walked out, closing it for them. The room was completely silent. There were only the occasional sparks from the candle on the table. The two of them didn't say a word and just silently stared at each other. Chin Ning suddenly found that she could not understand Imo Chuan. What? Lowering her head guiltily, she avoided his aggressive gaze, trying to distract his attention. She deliberately tried to find something to talk about. Imo Chuan, when did you come? How come I didn't know about this? Your qigong is this good, can you teach me in the future? Imo Chuan didn't say a word. His deep dark eyes stared at her face, making her face burn up and making her feel even more guilty. Are you thirsty? Do you want to drink some tea? This is high-quality Cloud Mountain Fog tea, it's very fragrant. She pretended to be calm as she walked over and poured a cup of hot tea for him. Before she could finish, he suddenly grabbed her wrist and with a gentle pull, she fell into his embrace. His arm was wrapped around her waist, tightly holding her, making her unable to move. Chapter 499. XWD 0 D 5 F $4 D 8 5 G 5 Underscore. Biff? Any random item in the mansion was priceless, and this teacup carved from green jade was even rarer. But neither of them looked at the teacup. Why did you make the decision yourself? Why do you have to take responsibility for everything? Why can't you just tell me honestly? Mo Chuan finally slowly spoke. He slightly lowered his head and looked right into her eyes. Ri's voice was very calm, just like the sound of flowing water, but his dark eyes were filled with an indescribable anger that made her tremble. She looked down, almost not daring to look at him. Ri's question was more aggressive than the look in his eyes, leaving her speechless. Is it because in your heart, Mo Chuan can't be relied on? Tell me, in your heart, do you even trust me? He suddenly reached out and lifted her chin, forcing her to look into his eyes. Ri's pupils were deep and dark, causing her heart to skip a beat and her breathing to quicken. Tell me. Why are you not willing to tell me? You think that I can't save Xiao Ru and I can't save you, right? If I didn't notice your abnormality, if I didn't send the eldest princess to stop you, wouldn't you have returned to his side? Isn't that right? Rhe was practically gnashing his teeth. Although his face was covered by a mask, he still looked calm, but his eyes were surging with rage. She did not know that when he found out that she had left the royal palace and was sitting in the carriage heading to the King Ding Yuan palace, he was shocked and his heart ached. Because she had never trusted him. She had never believed that he could protect her. That's why he would hide it from her and make this kind of absurd decision. If it wasn't for him sending secret guards to keep an eye on her, she would have already been eaten alive by that cruel wolf Chu Xiaoyang. There wouldn't even be any scraps left. You? How did you know? Was it you that told the eldest princess to save me? She was startled by his angry gaze and shrank back, but her heart was suddenly filled with warmth. She had always thought that she was acting very naturally, so how did he notice her abnormality? Do you think you can hide something from this one? His eyes were filled with anger and his voice was cold and hard. But in her ears, it was warm. It was like a lost child suddenly finding the way home, or like a warm spring breeze on a cold winter night. Ri's arms around her were very strong. She suddenly felt that as long as she was in his arms, even if the sky fell, she wouldn't be afraid. This feeling of having someone to rely on was very good. Very good. Are you angry? She raised her eyes that were as clear as spring water and looked at him faintly. Rhe was a man, it would be strange if he wasn't angry. Mo Chuan stared at her and his heart almost softened from her watery eyes. He tried his best to keep a straight face, maintaining his cold eyes. He did not punish her now, who knew what kind of daring things she would do in the future. He snorted loudly. Don't be angry. I promise you, this is the last time. I'll tell you everything in the future. I won't hide anything from you, okay? Chapter 500. But she really didn't dare tell him because she didn't dare gamble with Xiao Ru's life. Her voice was soft and waxy, just like a soft piece of candy that slowly melted in his heart. Bit by bit, strand by strand, it wrapped around his heart. His jaw, which he had been trying to keep a straight face, unknowingly relaxed. He would never be able to truly be angry with her. But if he forgave her so easily, he was not willing. Do you think this matter will end like this? He looked down and coldly stared at her. Then. What do you want? Or, should I make it up to you? She blinked her eyes that were as bright as spring water, a fawning smile on her lips. She knew that he was still angry and she was indeed in the wrong. She shouldn't have taken the initiative to leave without saying goodbye. He was a proud man, how could he accept this? His heart skipped a beat. How do you want to compensate me? He continued to speak with cold eyes. His voice was cold, not relaxing at all. He couldn't let her take advantage of him, otherwise he wouldn't be able to control her in the future. She quickly turned her eyes and her face turned slightly red. She bit her lips and said, "What kind of compensation do you want?" He held her waist tightly, and the two of them were very close. He lowered his head to look at her. Her face was as red as a peach blossom in March, pink and alluring. Her black eyes were like moist grapes, causing his breath to stop. His gaze moved down, landing on her light pink cherry lips. She noticed his line of sight and her face became even redder. The two of them simultaneously thought of the kiss that was as light as a dragonfly skimming the water. Mo Chuan's heart began to beat faster, one beat after another. It was like he was bewitched as he slowly lowered his head, slowly moving closer to her. His heart beat faster and faster. She seemed to know his intentions and did not struggle. She obediently closed her eyes and 2 rows of long and dense eyelashes cast a shadow under her eyes as she silently waited. No, no. When his lips brushed past the tip of her nose and was about to fall, her eyes suddenly opened wide and her hand reached out to cover his lips. "Why can't I?" His voice was hoarse, and there was a faint flame in his eyes. He almost wanted to grit his teeth. This mischievous girl. Every time it was a critical moment, she would tease him. What exactly did she want? "You said that you would compensate me." He said this word for word. His muffled voice came from her palm and it was filled with heat, making her palm feel warm and itchy. She couldn't help giggling. She let go of her hand and giggled as she said, "You're still wearing a human skin mask. I don't want you to accidentally touch some dead person's skin when you kiss me." Woo, that would be a very disgusting feeling. She revealed a look of disgust as she knit her brows. Mo Chuan's face instantly turned green. He took off the mask on his face, threw it on the ground, and glared at her. "Is this okay now?" Under the candlelight, his handsome and elegant features were exquisite and flawless. His eyes were as bright as the cold stars in the sky. Even when he was glaring at her, his eyes were filled with faint affection. "You can, of course you can. Of course you can." She smiled and squinted her eyes. Her eyes were curved like a little fox. Chapter 501. You wouldn't be playing tricks again, right? Mo Chuan suspiciously looked at her, clearly not believing her. He could not forget the many times she had made fun of him. This time, seeing her smirk in her eyes, his heart began to beat wildly. Do you want it or not? If you don't want it, I won't give it to you." She angrily stomped her foot. Why was he like a piece of wood? She didn't take the initiative, so why couldn't he take the initiative once? Last time it was clearly her who took the initiative, so this time it should be his turn. But she was too embarrassed to say this. "All right, I'll believe you this once." Mo Chuan slowly closed his eyes. He held his breath and his heart began to beat faster. It wasn't that he didn't want to take the initiative, but he wouldn't. He was afraid of being laughed at by her. So, he would let her do it. Although he didn't know how, he could secretly learn. With how smart he was, he would be able to learn quickly. Chen Ning raised her eyelashes and secretly looked at him. She saw that he had really closed his eyes. His eyelashes were long and thick, covering those black eyes that always made her feel flustered, but that slight tremble sold him out. The arm around her waist suddenly became stiff. She revealed a gentle smile. She suddenly wasn't nervous or shy anymore. This was because he was even more nervous and shy than her. She looked up and carefully looked at his brows, his eyes, and his jade-like nose. Those thin lips were very nice to look at. She didn't know how it would feel to kiss him. The last time, she had been too flustered and hurried. She had left after lightly touching his lips. She had not felt anything but a faint warmth. Right now, he was so close to her that she could touch him with her hands. She stood on her tiptoes and complained about how tall he was. She placed her arm around his neck and slowly moved closer to his lips. Her heart was beating fast, almost jumping out of her chest. Her face was completely red. It was a good thing he couldn't see, otherwise she really wouldn't have the courage to take the initiative to kiss him. Her light and sweet breath caressed his face. Although his eyes were closed, he could still feel her getting closer and closer to him. His body was tense and his hand around her waist was so stiff that he almost couldn't move. He was filled with anticipation and nervousness. But after waiting for a while, he still didn't feel the thing he was waiting for touch his lips. He couldn't help but slightly open his eyes. With a glance, he saw a delicate face like a white tea petal right in front of him. Her watery eyes were staring at him without blinking. Her eyes were misty and enshrouded in a thin layer of watery light. It was rippling and moving, but it caused his heart to suddenly tighten. What happened to her? But was she crying? Before he could open his mouth to ask, she suddenly closed her eyes and kissed the corner of his lips, causing his body to freeze instantly. She quickly left his lips and opened her eyes. She quickly left his lips, opened her eyes, and looked at him. Her eyes were dark and shiny. Thank me for what? His voice was hoarse. Although it was different from what he had expected, his heart couldn't help but soar with joy. Thank you for saving me and thank you even more for saving Xiao Ru. Mo Chuan, I am very fortunate to have met you in this life. She murmured softly, burying her head deep into his chest and hugging his waist. She softly whispered and buried her head in his chest, hugging his waist. He didn't say anything. He just hugged her tightly and pressed his chin against the top of her head. He slowly lowered his head and kissed her gently in the middle of her hair. He did not say a word and just tightly hugged her. His chin was placed on her head and he slowly lowered his head, gently kissing her hair. Chapter 502. The two of them did not say a word as they tightly hugged each other. Their hearts were beating in their chests, but they had never been this close before. Put-ong. The sound of something heavy falling came from outside the window, followed by a painful cry, "I-oh." That sound was very familiar. Mo Chuan's expression suddenly changed. He grabbed Chen Ning's waist with one hand and tightly held her in his embrace. His other hand opened the window and looked outside, raising his brows. "And Lo, what are you doing here?" he coldly said. Eldest Princess Lo was hugging her leg, jumping around in the yard with one leg. She was jumping while complaining. "I-oh, it's numb, my leg is numb. Big brother Emperor, if you want to kiss me, then hurry up and kiss me. You've made this princess' legs numb from squatting for so long." Mo Chuan and Chen Ning finally found that there was a large hole in the window paper. It seemed like the words they had just said in the room and their intimate conversation had all been heard and seen by the eldest princess. Chen Ning's face turned as red as a piece of cloth. She instantly left Mo Chuan's embrace and moved far away from him. This eldest princess, she was a dignified princess, but she was actually learning from others to eavesdrop. Mo Chuan's face couldn't help turning red as his two beautiful eyebrows stood up. He looked at the eldest princess with an embarrassed and angry gaze, looking like he wanted to kill someone. The eldest princess suddenly gave a shiver. She realized that she had accidentally touched a tiger's butt. "Ayaya, quickly run." She gave Mo Chuan and Chen Ning an awkward smile. She didn't care about her numb leg as she quickly ran away. "Big brother Emperor, Ning, you guys continue. This princess definitely won't peek at you again." Before she finished her sentence, she had already run so fast that not even her shadow could be seen. Humph. Mo Chuan looked in the direction the eldest princess disappeared in and gave a shy and angry snort. His eyes were filled with anger that couldn't be erased. He had just tasted that sweet as honey taste and it had been ruined by the eldest princess. Now he didn't even know how to continue. But he wasn't willing to let it end like this. Ning, are you thirsty? He suddenly asked. Chen Ning's face was red and her face was hot. She was stunned when she heard this and looked up. Thirsty. She did feel thirsty and her cheeks were hot. She nodded subconsciously. Come, let's go out for a drink. Without another word, he carried her and jumped out of the window. With a light leap, he landed on the roof and started running. Chen Ning felt the wind blow past her ears and the surrounding scenery flashed in front of her eyes. She looked at him in a daze, unable to react at all. Mo Chuan, there's tea in the room. If you're thirsty, we can drink tea. She tightened her arms around his neck. Because he was running too fast, she was afraid that she would fall out of his arms. She said these words right next to his ear. A ticklish breath blew into his ears, causing him to stumble and almost fall down the room. Don't talk, don't say no. He clenched his teeth, hugged her tightly, and quickened his steps. He was still ordering her out of habit. She pursed her lips. As expected of someone who was used to being an emperor, used to bossing people around. Now that he had a cold expression on his face, he was not cute at all. It was still his nervous and shy appearance from before that was interesting. She curled her lips and thought of when she was tiptoeing to kiss him. His body was stiff from nervousness and his jade-like face was covered in a layer of red. Yeah, he was shy. Chapter 503. Her eyes looked around and under the starlight, her eyes looked like they were drunk. She did not notice that although Mo Chuan was running, his eyes never left her face. This girl, what kind of trick was she playing at this time? Mo Chuan's heart was beating fast. Seeing her eyes looking around and the smile on her lips, he suddenly had a bad premonition. He suddenly stopped in his tracks and landed in a secluded and quiet alley. Chen Ning blinked and felt that this place was very familiar. It's that small wine shop. She pointed at a wine curtain in front of her and breathed in the fragrance of the wine coming from the alley. He put her down and grabbed her hand, preparing to walk over. She suddenly broke free of his hand and said in a suspicious voice, Speak, why did you bring me here to drink? You clearly know that I will get drunk as soon as I drink. Are you having bad intentions? Do you want to take advantage of me being drunk and do something to me? She opened her bright eyes wide and stared right at him. Mo Chuan was so angry that he wanted to poke her mute acupuncture point, making it so that she couldn't speak anymore. How could this girl think of him as such a dirty person? Was he the kind of person who would take advantage of others? That's right. It's exactly what you're thinking. I want to make you drunk and then. Humph. He tightly gripped her wrist and forced her into the corner until she had nowhere to go and her back was pressed against the hard and rough wall. He used one arm to support himself against the wall and his other hand to lift her chin, purposely making a fierce expression to scare her. She smiled and blinked her eyes. Starlight seemed to have flown into her eyes, and they were glistening and sparkling. I don't need to drink and you don't need to make me drunk because seeing you makes me drunk. You don't know, but you are even more intoxicating than the richest wine in the world. Her voice became lower and lower. The last few words were almost inaudible, just like a whisper. Mo Chuan's ears rang with a wanged sound. He stared at her and stared right at her, not daring to believe that these words had just come out of her mouth. His whole body felt warm and light, as if he was about to fly. Did she know that her words were the most intoxicating wine in the world? He didn't need to drink it to be drunk. However, I know of another wine that is even better than the wine here. How about you take me to have a taste? She seemed to be suddenly interested. She slipped out of his arms like a fish and turned around to grab his hand. Oh. What kind of wine is it? His eyes flashed, but he still couldn't bear to look away from her face. As long as he was with her, even drinking water would be better than drinking the best wine in the world. It's the flower wine in the brothel. I heard that there's a famous brothel in the capital. Not only does it have the best wine, but it also has the most beautiful girls who can sing the best songs. Let's go drink flower wine together, okay? She said this with a smile. Her eyes could not hide the interest. It was said that the brothel was a place that one had to visit after transmigrating, but she had never seen one before. She had to go to a brothel. Of her hand was not moving. He was like a pine tree, standing alone and motionless. What? She looked at him with a puzzled expression. Aren't we going to drink? His face was as dark as a pot and his eyes were filled with anger. Where did this girl hear all this nonsense? She actually wanted to drag him, the emperor, to a brothel to listen to music and drink wine. Chapter 504. Chen-Ning shivered from the cold intent in his eyes and couldn't help taking a step back. He seemed like he was angry again. He really was a temperamental person. She didn't say anything she shouldn't have, so why was he glaring at her like this? If you don't want to go to a brothel, we can go somewhere else to drink. She turned her eyes and said with a giggle. She pointed at the small bar in front of them. If you like to drink there, then we'll go there. You like to listen to songs when you drink? He suddenly said. His voice was low, but it didn't contain any anger. That's right. She subconsciously nodded. All right, then I'll bring you to a place with wine and songs. After he said this, he grabbed her waist and used his qinggong, heading in a certain direction. She couldn't help but follow him into the air. You really want to bring me to a brothel? She was surprised and strange. Her heart was filled with a trace of bitterness. She thought he was very pure, but she never thought that he would also be an old hand at visiting brothels. She bit her lip and suddenly wanted to bite his ear hard. Visiting a brothel. Where did this lass hear all these terms from? Mo Chuan's lips fiercely twitched. The arm holding her waist unknowingly tightened, making it so that she couldn't make a sound. He stopped by a river this time. Holding her, he jumped onto a boat with a black awning. Then with a kick, he sent the boatman ashore. The boatman was just about to curse when suddenly a shiny white object flew over and fell into his bosom. He looked down and saw it was a 50-tael ingot. Immediately he smiled from ear to ear. What? Wei Xiaobao asked. Wait for me here, I'll go get the wine. Mo Chuan placed her in the cabin and then flew out. When he came back, he was holding a jar of wine in each hand and each jar was at least 10 pounds. He pulled out a wooden table and placed it on the bow of the boat. Then he poured out 2 bowls of wine and pulled her to sit on the bow of the boat. He did not paddle and just allowed the boat to gently sway on the water. There were beautiful boats swaying on the river. There were red lanterns hanging on the boats, creating a hazy light that was reflected in the water. The water rippled and the entire river was filled with a charming and hazy feeling, making one feel intoxicated. Chen-Ning unknowingly fell into a daze. Let's drink. He handed her a bowl of wine. That wine was as red as rouge and it was very fragrant. It was the wine they had drunk in the small restaurant before. She took the bowl of wine and smiled, but she did not drink it. She deliberately said, You said you would bring me here to listen to music and drink, but there's only wine and no music. I won't drink unless you sing me a song. Mo Chuan couldn't help glaring at her. He knew that she was going to tease him, but it was a good thing he was already prepared. It was a good thing he was already prepared. He clapped his hands and a boat stopped beside the black awning boat. Two young female singers came out of the boat, holding a pipa as they bowed to the two of them. "Two guests, what song would you like to hear?" one of the female singers asked with a faint smile. Mo Chuan did not reply and just looked at Chen Ning. She was stunned. She had never heard a song before, so how could she name it? She said, "You can sing whatever you want. As long as you sing well, this young master will heavily reward you." After saying this, she smiled as she looked at Mo Chuan. Under the swaying red shadow, Mo Chuan's delicate features looked like they were painted in ink. They flickered on and off, rippling in the water. Chapter 505. The two singers couldn't help being stunned. It wasn't until Mo Chuan knit his brows and gave a cold snort that the two of them reacted. They quickly looked away, but their hearts were still beating fast. Then, "This servant will embarrass myself." One of the singers moved her strings and began to play the pipa. The sound was clear and melodious. The other singer opened her throat and sang a fragrant song. Her words were lingering and the melody was low, attracting people's souls. Her eyes were watery as she looked over at Mo Chuan from time to time. It was a pity that Mo Chuan did not look at her at all, not even paying attention to what she was singing. He took a sip and looked over at her. The ripples of the lake reflected on her cheeks, making her look even more beautiful. This scene was enough to intoxicate a person's soul. Chen Ning drank a few mouthfuls of wine and a faint blush appeared on her face. Her cheeks were a bit hot and she couldn't handle the alcohol, especially when she heard the song the singer was singing. It was sweet and sweet, not like a song, but more like a soft moan. It was high and low and the meaning of the words couldn't be understood, but it made people's hearts beat faster and their faces turn red. She couldn't help asking Mo Chuan in a low voice, "What song is she singing? Why is the tune so strange?" Mo Chuan's handsome face turned slightly red. He revealed a smile and an angry look at her. "Didn't you want to listen to a song? This is a song, why can't you understand it? Then you can understand it. Tell me what she's singing." She was not convinced. "I also don't understand it." Mo Chuan's face turned red again. He looked away and no longer looked at her. Chen Ning saw his face turn red again and became suspicious. She grabbed his hand and shouted, "You must have understood it, but you deliberately didn't tell me, right?" His hand was burning hot and when she grabbed it, she felt a burning sensation. She couldn't help being stunned as she asked, "Why is your hand so hot? Do you have a fever?" She raised her hand to touch his forehead and was grabbed by him. He knit his brows. "Ning, don't mess around." "I'm not messing around, I just want to see if you're sick. Could it be that the wind on the river is too strong and you've caught a cold?" "Mo Chuan, are you cold?" Her hands were grabbed by him and she felt that his palms were burning hot, making her even more worried. Cold? How could he be cold? He was about to die from the heat. Mo Chuan tightly held her hand. Her fingertips were cool and very comfortable to the touch, but this comfort only lasted for a while. Her smooth skin and soft jade-like fingers made him feel even hotter. "I'm not cold." He let go of her hand and drank mouthful after mouthful of wine. The cold wine entered his stomach and the fire in his body was temporarily extinguished. A cool breeze blew on the surface of the water, bringing him waves of refreshing comfort. It was B. What kind? Mo Chuan thought his mental fortitude was very good, but he had lost his mind just now and almost fell for it. He couldn't help secretly rejoicing that this was a boat on the lake. If they really went to a brothel and drank wine while listening to this kind of song, how many people would be able to control themselves like him? Humph, if he knew that there was someone who dared to suggest going to a brothel to listen to music, he would cut off that person's head. Have you heard enough? Do you still want to listen? He looked at her and revealed a faint smile. He saw that her face was becoming more and more red and her eyes were becoming blurred. He couldn't help finding it funny. Could it be that this lass understood as well? Chapter 506. Chen Ning shook her head and said, "I'm not listening, I'm not listening." She felt her mouth become dry and she unknowingly treated the wine as water, drinking several mouthfuls. If she kept listening and drinking like this, she would be drunk to death. "If you haven't heard enough, I can have them sing one song at a time until you've heard enough." Mo Chuan suddenly came close to her and spoke in a low voice with a smile. His breath fell on her ears, making her feel a bit itchy and her face became even hotter. "I've heard enough, I've really heard enough." She quickly covered her ears and rubbed them. Mo Chuan revealed a smile and threw out a silver ingot that landed on the boat. "Many thanks to the two guests." The two female singers had only sung one song, but they never thought that they would receive this kind of reward. Their eyes lit up and they bowed down again and again. Mo Chuan waved his hand and the boat slowly drifted away, disappearing into the light of the lake. "The wind is strong on the river, let's go in and drink." Mo Chuan's internal energy was deep, so he was not afraid of the wind, but he was worried that she was weak and couldn't take the cold wind blowing from the water. He stroked her thin clothes and secretly regretted his carelessness. How could he have been so careless and not thought of giving her a cloak? But this couldn't be blamed on him. As the emperor, he had people taking care of his food and clothing. He was always thinking about the matters of the country, so how could he think about these trivial matters? "All right, let's go in and drink." She stood up and walked into the cabin. With the wind blowing, the wine filled her. She was only 30% drunk, but now she was 10% drunk. She swayed and her feet tripped on the deck of the ship. With a sudden stagger, her whole body fell forward like a wooden stake. "Be careful." Mo Chuan was holding a jar of wine in one hand and a wooden table in the other. Seeing this, he threw the wine jars on the table into the water and rushed over to help her up. It was too late. He had no choice but to leap forward. When she fell, he was right under her body, so she didn't feel any pain at all. Mo Chuan. She placed an arm on his chest and swayed as she stood up. She giggled and said, "Why do you have two heads? Why are you swaying back and forth? You're making my head dizzy." Hearing this, Mo Chuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This girl was drunk again. He still remembered the last time when she was drunk, the way she talked and laughed in his arms. His heart suddenly swayed with a layer of warmth. One arm gently wrapped around her waist and the other gently brushed aside the hair on his face. He gave her a pampering smile and said in a soft voice, "Ning, you're drunk." "I'm not drunk, I'm just a bit dizzy." She shook her head, and it became more and more dizzy. Her arms could not support her body weight, and she fell on his firm chest again. That soft and velvety touch immediately caused his heart to beat faster and his breathing to quicken. The flame that had originally been extinguished began to stir again. Not hugging her like this, he wouldn't be able to hold her. He took a deep breath, held her shoulders, and kept a certain distance from her. His eyes were dark, and there were two small flames burning in them. Ning. The moment these two words left his mouth, he realized that his voice was hoarse. He couldn't help but be startled. What do you want to say?" She slightly lowered her head, her drunken eyes filled with a smile as she looked down at him. Chapter 507. His words came to an abrupt stop. In the next moment, she lowered her head and her soft petal-like lips blocked the words he wanted to say. His body turned stiff once again. This kiss was too sudden and completely caught him off guard. He did not even have time to close his eyes. He saw her long and curly eyelashes gently tremble, her drunken eyes rippling, and her silky hair hanging down, covering both his and her face. Their breaths intertwined and the sweet fragrance of alcohol filled the air. He didn't know if she was drunk or if he was drunk. Perhaps they were both drunk. It was just the touch of their lips. That lingering soft fragrance was so sweet that it went straight to their hearts. Their heartbeats involuntarily sped up, with a faint sense of loss and helplessness. Chen Ning did not know what she was doing. She just felt a bit thirsty and there was a drop of wine on his lips, so she stuck out her tongue to gently lick it. Then she heard a short and hoarse breath come from his throat. The arms around her suddenly tightened, almost making it hard for her to breathe. Woo! As soon as she let out a protesting whisper, she suddenly felt the world spin around her. Her entire body had already been flipped over by him. She was lying flat on the cool and smooth deck. Her eyes were hazy as she looked up at him. Because of this, their lips were separated. Their faces were red, and their breathing was rapid. He did not put his body weight on her. He used one arm to support himself on the deck and the other to gently brush aside the hair on her face, revealing her petal-like beautiful face and those misty eyes. He looked at her seriously and attentively. His slender fingers landed on her smooth and full forehead, moving down, sliding over the tip of her nose and slowly landing on her red lips. This was what he had just touched. He caressed her lips. It was light, thin, and soft, like a ripe fruit. A light bite would cause sweet juice to flow out. Although it was only for a short moment, that sweet and beautiful taste seeped into his heart, making him unable to forget it. Mo Chuan, I'm very thirsty. I want to drink water. She suddenly opened her mouth and her thin lips touched his fingers, just like she was kissing his fingers. There's no water, only wine. Do you want to drink? He controlled his heart and poured a bowl of wine for her. She shook her head, not taking it. Her eyes were as innocent as a little animal's. I'm dizzy, feed me. Feed? How? He was stunned. Looking at the bright red wine in the bowl, he suddenly realized something. He pursed his lips and said in a hoarse voice, "All right." Without any hesitation, he drank a mouthful of wine and held it in his mouth. Then he lowered his head and kissed her lips. The sweet wine slid into her mouth, and she immediately swallowed it thirstily. But in the next moment, she was stunned. Her black and bright eyes suddenly widened, and she stared at the man in front of her like a frightened deer. Because what entered her mouth was not just the sweet wine, it was also his. Her brain went blank in an instant. She was originally dizzy, but now she felt light. Her whole body seemed to be floating in the clouds and mist, slowly drifting. The river slapped against the deck of the boat, and the boat swayed gently, again and again. Chapter 508. When their tongues touched again, their bodies trembled at the same time. That kind of beautiful feeling seemed like it was about to explode as it spread from their lips to their entire body. He closed his eyes and wholeheartedly experienced this kiss. His expression was filled with an unprecedented concentration. This was a beautiful feeling that he had never tasted before. He never thought that after tasting it, he would never be able to give it up. Their lips were filled with the fragrance of wine. His gentle kiss was like flowing water, lingering endlessly. Her head was tilted back and her eyes were slightly closed. There was a faint glow in her eyes as she felt his gentleness. He was so careful, holding her in the palm of his hand and protecting her. Even his kiss was filled with pity and longing. She really wanted to keep kissing him like this until the end of time. Suddenly, an intense pain burst forth from her chest, causing her to tremble involuntarily. He immediately felt it. Looking up with deep eyes, he said in a hoarse voice, "What's wrong? Did I hurt you?" He suddenly realized that he had been too immersed in his kiss and it had been too long, making her lie on the cold and hard deck. His heart filled with guilt. No, it's me. I feel a bit cold. She insincerely looked down and rubbed her shoulders. I'll hug you. He immediately pulled her up and had her sit in his embrace. Opening his strong arms, he held her in front of his chest. After thinking about it, he undid his belt and took off his clothes. She jumped like a frightened rabbit and her face instantly turned white. You, what are you doing? He took off his clothes and tightly wrapped them around her shoulders. He whispered in her ear, Are you still cold? No, I'm not cold anymore. Her white teeth bit her lower lip and she looked at him with a complicated expression. Her delicate face was covered in a faint blush. Her heart was filled with annoyance. She actually thought that he was taking off his clothes because... What kind of person did she think Emo Chuan was? How could he be like Chu Xiaoyang, having those kinds of thoughts in his head? Emo Chuan poured another bowl of wine and used his internal energy to heat it up. Then he placed it by her lips. Drink some hot wine and you won't be cold. She lowered her eyes, took the wine bowl, and slowly drank. As the hot wine entered her stomach, her whole body felt warm. When she raised her eyelashes, she found that he was looking at her without blinking. His eyes were focused, as if he could see into her heart. She suddenly panicked, her fingers trembled, and she almost dropped the wine bowl. He reached out in time and held her hand. His hand was large and warm, but her fingers were cold and trembling. Ning, you aren't cold, you are afraid. Tell me, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of me? He calmly looked at her, but there was a faint wound in his eyes. Every minute change in her expression didn't escape his eyes. He had been trying his best to restrain himself and not do anything too outrageous to her. Even the kiss was initiated by her. He did not want to put her in a difficult position. He wanted to give her enough respect. If she was unwilling, he would not force her. Because right now, she still didn't belong to him. Other than her lips, he had not touched any part of her body that he was not supposed to touch. But why was she trembling in fear? Chapter 509. The wine she drank was mellow in her body and each word she said was filled with a hint of drunkenness. It was because of the wine that she dared to say the words hidden deep in her heart. She looked at him in a drunken daze. In the faint light, his cold and delicate brows were like blooming pear blossoms. Her fingers were cool as they touched his brows, eyes, and lips, slowly touching and caressing. He did not move at all, letting her fingers slide across every part of his face. His thin lips were slightly pursed and his eyes were deep. I like you, Emo Chuan. She suddenly spat out these words like she was dreaming. He held his breath again, almost not daring to believe his ears. His pair of eyes, which had always been calm, was no longer calm. Say it again. He said in a hoarse voice. He heard wrong, he must have heard wrong. I like you. Her red lips that were stained with alcohol pressed against his brows and she whispered, I like your eyebrows. Your eyes. Her lips slowly slid down. Your nose. Also, your. Here. She kissed his lips. Her breath smelled like orchids and his breathing became a bit chaotic. His eyes were half open as he stared at her peach blossom-like beautiful face. He did not dodge and allowed her lips to gently touch his, not making any further movements. Because he knew that the girl he liked was drunk. He did not want to do this while she was drunk. If he wanted to do it when she was sober and willing. But no matter how rational he was still a young and vigorous man. Although her kiss was light, it was like a small fire that slowly lit his heart. Very quickly, it became a prairie fire. Ning, you're drunk. I'll send you back. Her kiss landed on his Adam's apple and continued moving downwards. He couldn't take it anymore and hugged her to stop her from continuing. I'm not drunk. She suddenly raised her eyelashes. Her dark and clear eyes reflected his figure. Then do you know what you're doing? He said in a soft voice as he stared at her. Of course I know. She revealed a lazy smile in his embrace. Her lips curled up and she softly said, I'm seducing you, my Lord Emperor. Pooh! Mo Chuan almost couldn't help throwing her into the river. He was sure once again that she was drunk. No. If he let her continue like this, who knew how many more ridiculous things she would do and how many more ridiculous things she would say. He was a man, there were times when he couldn't control himself. You're drunk, I'll send you back. He stood up while carrying her and walked out of the cabin. As the wind blew across the river, her drunkenness intensified, and she began to struggle with all her might. I'm not leaving, I'm not going. I'm not going, I'm not going. Mo Chuan and Mo Chuan's heart. Mo Chuan felt his ears heat up and a numb feeling spread from his ears to his entire body. His arms holding her suddenly lost strength and she broke free from him. Put on. She fell from his arms and actually fell into the deep and dark river. She made a splash and was instantly swallowed by the river. She fell. At that instant, his breathing stopped. His heart felt as if it was fiercely gripped by a large hand, and it hurt to the point he couldn't even breathe. Without a second thought, he jumped into the river where she had disappeared. When the cold river water went over his head, he suddenly realized that this was bad. Chapter 5:10. Gudong, Gudong. He drank several mouthfuls of the cold river water and the cold air went straight to his head. It made his head that had become dizzy from his anxiety clear up. He quickly calmed down. Relying on his deep internal energy, he held his breath. It was enough for him to stay underwater for a while, so although he was panicked, he was not panicked. He opened his eyes in the water and searched for her. But the night was as dark as ink. Although he could see the reflection of the lanterns on the boat, the depths of the river were completely dark. He couldn't even see his fingers in front of him. Although his eyes were wide open, he still couldn't see anything. He wanted to call out her name, but when he opened his mouth, the river water entered his mouth. The breath he was holding in was instantly released and he began to drink mouthfuls of water. His chest began to hurt from being suffocated and his throat felt like it was being torn apart. He knew that if he didn't come to the surface, he would quickly drown or suffocate to death. But she was still in the river. If he couldn't find her, he definitely wouldn't go up. If she died, then what would he do? He wouldn't give up. He wouldn't give up no matter what. He had to save her. In his despair, his fingers, which were flailing about in the water, suddenly touched something that was cold to the bone. He immediately grabbed it tightly. Was it her? Was this her hand? His chest filled with a large amount of pleasant surprise. With the last of his strength, he pulled her to his side and held her in his embrace. Even if he died, he would die with her. He wouldn't let go, he definitely wouldn't let go. The corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile. His eyes slowly closed and his consciousness gradually dissipated. Chen Ning fell into the river and was soaked in the cold water. Most of her drunkenness disappeared. She drank 2 mouthfuls of water and shook her head. When she was about to come to the surface, she suddenly heard a putong sound. It was the sound of something heavy falling into the water. She was stunned for a second before she reacted. It was Mo Chuan. Did he jump into the water to save her? The river was cold to the bone, but her heart was as warm as spring. A faint smile appeared on her face and she immediately swam in the direction he fell in. Although she was a good swimmer, she couldn't even see her fingers in the water. She couldn't see anything, so she could only swim with one hand while her other hand searched the water. There was an undercurrent in the water. The two of them had only been in the water for an instant, but she had been brought several meters away by the undercurrent. She was like a nimble fish swimming in the water, but she couldn't find him at all. She knew that the longer she stayed in the water, the more dangerous it would be for him. Her tears unknowingly flowed out and quickly melted into the river. Mo Chuan, nothing will happen to you. Mo Chuan, you must be fine. If something happens to you, I don't want to live anymore. She was so anxious that her heart was about to explode. Suddenly, her finger touched something and it was like something was guiding her, allowing her to swim to Mo Chuan's side. In the water, she, mo, she, ch. Although she couldn't see, she knew that he was Mo Chuan, it was him. She was filled with joy, but as soon as the sweetness in her heart rose, she felt something was wrong. His arms holding her gradually lost strength and his body slowly sank down. She forcefully grabbed onto his arm and with a push of her feet, she quickly swam to the surface. With a "bo" sound, two wet heads finally emerged from the water. Chapter 5:11. His eyes were closed and his face was pale. His thin lips did not have a trace of blood, looking like he was asleep. She knew that he had fainted from suffocation. Thinking of how he became like this to save her, she felt her heart tremble and she could not control herself. Holding his head, she quickly swam to the shore. Once she reached the shore, she immediately began to save him. She had learned basic first aid techniques, so she knew that Mo Chuan would be fine. Sure enough, after a few compressions, he began to react. He spat out the water in his stomach and forcefully coughed a few times before slowly opening his eyes. When those clear eyes opened, she let out a low cry. Her eyes turned red and she threw herself into his embrace, tightly hugging him. Mo Chuan, you. She wanted to say something, but her throat was choked and tears began to fall. She was truly afraid, extremely afraid. She was afraid that she would never find him again, afraid that he would never open his eyes again. Mo Chuan slowly raised his hand and hugged her. He hugged her tighter and tighter, so tight that she couldn't breathe. Her entire body was drenched and cold like ice. He was the same, but his body was warm, and it was getting hotter and hotter, especially his chest. It was like a ball of fire was burning, and it warmed her body up. She was no longer shivering. He was in a daze for a while, feeling like he was dreaming. But a dream would not be this real. He could clearly feel her hot tears wetting his clothes and flowing to his chest. Her body was very soft, but it was gently trembling in his embrace. He raised his hand and touched her wet black hair, her face that was covered in tears and river water, and her small and smooth chin. Ning, it's a good thing you're fine. He only said these words in a low voice. Then he took her face in his hands and kissed her lightly on the lips. Her lips were cool and soft, stained with the tears that flowed down her cheeks. The tip of his tongue tasted that faint saltiness, and his chest was filled with emotions, almost boiling. At the bottom of the pitch-black river, he really thought that he was going to lose her forever. He already did not want to live in despair. Luckily, she was fine. She was in his embrace and he was tightly hugging her, gently kissing her. This was not a dream. She closed her eyes, and for a moment, she almost lost consciousness. Then the warmth on her lips woke her up. She vaguely remembered that when she was drunk, they had been intimate like this before. The familiar warmth was like a wave that filled her heart, turning her into a warm pool of water. The spring grass grew on the riverbank, covering the two figures. In the darkness, only their rapid breathing and heartbeats could be heard. Their clothes were soaked, but their bodies were becoming hotter and hotter. His lips became scorching hot and he gradually lost control of himself. His fiery hands touched her slender and soft neck and slowly moved under her drenched collar, touching her round and soft shoulders. Her skin was as cool and smooth as jade, making him linger. His breathing became even more chaotic and his forehead was covered in sweat as his heart beat even faster. No. I'll stop. It took a lot of effort for him to move his lips away from hers. He propped himself up and gasped for air. Chapter 5:12. No, she felt his body stiffen and wanted to stand up. She wrapped her arms around his neck, not letting him leave. She whispered in his ear, "I'm willing." After experiencing life and death and separation, she suddenly felt that she was too stupid in the past. Since the two of them were in love, why would she follow those damn rules? She should do what she liked with the person she liked, boldly doing it and happily doing it. Otherwise, wouldn't she have lived this life in vain? Her hand slid down from his neck and down his firm back, falling onto his waist. She could feel that his entire body was tense and he must be restraining himself very hard. He was afraid of hurting her, right? Actually, for this matter, it didn't matter who would hurt who. As long as he liked her and she liked him, what was wrong with that? In the darkness, Mo Chuan couldn't see her face or her expression, but her low and lingering voice entered his ears, almost making him collapse. Why didn't he refuse? Why was he willing? Why? Why? He struggled with himself, struggling with the desire in his heart. No, he definitely couldn't. But his hand went against his will and slid down her shoulder inch by inch until it reached her chest. Her heart was beating in his palm. Pang, 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 pang. Truly beautiful. It made him feel ecstasy. Stop. Mo Chuan, do you want to continue like this and make an irredeemable mistake? A cold voice sounded in his heart, making his body violently tremble. He suddenly left her body and jumped into the nearby river with a plop. Mo Chuan. Chen Ning was shocked. She wanted to charge over to save him, but he came out of the river soaking wet. The ice-cold water had already extinguished the flames on his body. His body was dripping water and he was in a very sorry state. He didn't look like a ruler at all, but he didn't care at all. He pulled her over and smiled at her. Then he gently hugged her and gently stroked her hair. Ning, we can't be like this right now. I want to leave this moment for our wedding night. I want to openly marry you and be my only wife in this life. I believe that this day will definitely come, do you believe me? His handsome face was hidden in the darkness, but his voice was as clear as a spring, stirring her heart. Her eyes suddenly became hot, and tears almost flowed out. I believe you, I believe you. I believe that this day will definitely come. She buried her head in his chest and tightly hugged his waist. What emperor, what empress, she didn't care at all. She only cared about Mo Chuan as a person. He understood her, so he said that he would take her as his only wife and not as his empress. In this moment, she felt that their hearts had never been this close before. However, will there really be such a day? Her heart once again filled with pain. Just now, she was truly willing to give it to him, but he was too much of a gentleman, too much respect for her. He did not want her to suffer even the slightest bit of harm, even in this kind of matter. He used such a harsh attitude to restrain himself. It was this kind of restraint and respect that allowed her to feel the love and pity he had for her. In this life, she did not choose the wrong person. Chapter 5:13. Achoo! A gust of cold wind blew by and Chen Ning suddenly sneezed. Mo Chuan finally realized that she was still wearing wet clothes. Standing by the river, he felt a burst of pain in his heart. He picked her up and used his qinggong to fly away. Mo Chuan, where are you taking me? Aren't we going back to the eldest princess palace? Chen Ning found that he was actually taking her out of the city. They were traveling through the forest and she found it strange. You can't let her see you like this. Mo Chuan replied. His face was slightly red and he did not dare look at her. At this time, the morning light was shining and the sky was brightening. Her thin wet clothes were tightly clinging to her body. Her curves were exquisite and it really attracted people's attention. Chen Ning was stunned for a second before understanding. Her lips slightly pursed and she revealed a gentle smile. What is this place? She found that there was a large courtyard built in the middle of the forest. Mo Chuan carried her and jumped over the wall. It was as if he was returning to his own home. This is the palace's other courtyard and there is a hot spring inside. You're cold, so you need to soak in it to drive away the cold. He charged into the back courtyard and went around a tree wall that was as tall as two people. Chen Ning could already smell the smell of sulfur in the air. Yeah, there really is a hot spring. Her eyes lit up. He placed her on the edge of the hot spring and still did not look at her. He immediately turned around and said, I'll go get some clean clothes. You wash them. After saying this, his figure passed through the tree wall and quickly disappeared. It seemed as if he was fleeing in panic. Chen Ning's lips curled up as she smiled at the direction he disappeared in. Zi, he was too much of a gentleman. He had already hugged her and kissed her, did he still need to be this polite to her? This ancient man, he really was pedantic. But, she liked this kind of him. If it was Chu Xiaoyang, he would have been frivolous with her. She suddenly bit her lips. Damn, why did she think of that man at this time? When she thought of him, she felt a dull pain in her chest. The surface of the pool was covered in a thin layer of white mist. She bent down and scooped up some spring water. The water was warm and it released a kind of seductive charm, making all the pores on her body open in comfort. The entire hot spring was surrounded by a dense wall of trees, just like a natural barrier. She took off her wet clothes and stepped into the pool. The hot water quickly enveloped her body and dispelled the chill from her body. She closed her eyes in satisfaction and leaned her head against the stone pillow beside the pool. She relaxed her body and half floated in the water. Her black hair floated on the water of the water and her face that was as white as jade. It was a faint pink, making her look like a sleeping spirit. It was unknown when a black-clothed figure had appeared on top of the tree wall. His face was covered with a black cloth, revealing only a pair of black and shiny eyes. His eyes fell on the surface of the water that was enshrouded in white mist, and a hint of joy flashed in his eyes. He jumped down from the tree wall and jumped into the hot spring pool. With a plop sound, a large splash was made. Chen Ning had already fallen asleep, but she was suddenly woken up by the sound of water. Opening her eyes, she saw that there was a black-clothed man in the hot spring and she let out a surprised cry. The black-clothed man was about to take off his clothes when the white mist on the water dissipated. A beautiful girl's face appeared in front of him. Chapter 5:14. Kubisimilatu. The black-clothed man suddenly opened his mouth to say this. He stared at her without blinking, his eyes filled with surprise and joy. He had been attracted by the smell of sulfur, but he never thought that there would be a rare pearl hidden in the sulfur pond. This person wasn't Mo Chuan. When the black-clothed man spoke, Chen Ning could hear it. His pronunciation was strange and she couldn't understand a single word. Her face instantly turned white. She immediately covered her chest with her hands and submerged herself into the water. She was clearly submerged in the hot spring water, but her limbs felt cold and stiff. Get out! She gritted her teeth and her eyes were like a fierce little beast as she stared at the strange man. She never thought that there would be a stranger here. Because Mo Chuan was here, he would not let her be in danger. But where did this man come from? Could it be that Mo Chuan had encountered danger? Otherwise he would have heard what was happening here and would have rushed over to save her. Hearing her speak, the black-clothed man gave a laugh from his throat. His eyes changed and he spoke again. Tell me, who are you? This time he spoke with perfect articulation. She understood every word, but her heart sank. Because she found that this man was walking towards her step by step. She retreated, but the pond was only this big and she was naked. Even if she retreated, where could she go? She forcefully bit her lips and suddenly shouted, Mo Chuan, save. The word me did not even have time to come out before the black-clothed man charged at her like a cheetah, covering her mouth. She immediately opened her mouth and bit down on his finger. She forcefully bit down and instantly tasted blood in her mouth. The man's eyes flashed with a sinister look and a cold aura filled her, looking very terrifying. He grabbed her hair and pulled her back forcefully. She felt the pain and had no choice but to let go of her teeth. Her pale lips were stained with bright red blood. That was his blood. She angrily stared at him. Her eyes were no longer clear and charming, rather they were filled with a wild and unyielding nature. Rogue! Let me go! She cursed through gritted teeth. This man was definitely not a gentleman, but someone who harbored evil intentions. He clearly saw her naked in the spring, but he still came to bother her. If he wasn't a rogue, then what was he? The man's eyes narrowed as if he was stunned. Then he slowly opened his mouth, saying each word very slowly. My surname is not Liu and I'm not called Liu Ho. Tell me who you are and I'll let you go. She closed her mouth, and her eyes suddenly lit up. She closed her mouth and her eyes lit up. He appeared behind the black-clothed man. His face was expressionless, but his eyes were as cold as ice and as sharp as a sword. He held a branch that he had just broken off, and the tip of the branch was pointed at the black-clothed man's nape. Let her go or I'll take your life. He coldly said. The black-clothed man's body froze. Clearly he never thought that there would be someone behind him. The branch in Mo Chuan's hand moved forward and he felt the back of his neck go numb. He knew that he was being controlled by someone and couldn't help being angry and anxious as he scolded, Who are you? What kind of hero are you to launch a sneak attack? Bullying a woman, what kind of hero are you? Mo Chuan said in a cold voice. Chapter 5:15. You're seeking death. Mo Chuan was filled with rage as he stabbed out with the branch. Who would have thought that at this time, the man would suddenly bury his head and fall into the spring water? Mo Chuan's stab hit thin air. But he had already expected the other side to make this move. His long arm reached out and grabbed Chen Ning's wrist, freeing her from the man's grip. The moment her body left the water, he raised his right hand and a snow-white dress wrapped around her body. She floated through the air and the white dress that was lifted by the wind was like layers of blooming lily petals. It was so beautiful that it could move people's hearts. In the next moment, she had already fallen into Mo Chuan's warm embrace. Ning, are you all right? As soon as he asked this, he heard the hua-la sound of water. That person sent out a palm from the bottom of the water and a wall of water came at him and her. His left palm came out and slammed into the wall of water. With a large hua sound, the wall of water collapsed and crystal-clear water droplets scattered in all directions. At this time, the man broke out of the water and gave a long laugh. He jumped onto the wall of trees with a wonderful posture. It seemed like his qigong was not below Mo Chuan's. He turned around and winked at Chen Ning again. With a smile, he said, Little beauty, I'll come back to find you. After saying this, he jumped out and disappeared behind the wall of trees. Bastard, you still want to run. Mo Chuan carried her as he jumped over the wall. Seeing that the man was several feet away, he knew that he wouldn't be able to catch up to him while carrying her, but it was impossible for him to put her down. He used all his strength and forcefully threw out the branch in his hand. The wind whistled as it shot out at the man's back. It was like the man had eyes on the back of his head. He suddenly turned his hand and caught the branch in his hand before forcefully throwing it back. It's impolite not to reciprocate. Have a taste of my strength. The branch turned into a sharp arrow that shot out at Mo Chuan's chest. Mo Chuan's lips curled into a cold smile, not dodging at all. When the branch was a foot in front of him, it suddenly changed directions and stabbed into the ground. With a pu sound, half of it went into the ground, showing how strong the man's internal energy was. But why did he shoot in the wrong direction? Mo Chuan was filled with doubt when he heard the man say with a laugh, "I was just scaring you, don't treat me like a sick cat. I can't bear to hurt my little beauty." The laughter gradually faded away, and before the sound died away, the person had already passed away. Mo Chuan looked in the direction the man left in, but he didn't chase. "Ning He, did he do anything to you?" He lowered his head to look at her. His gaze lingered on her body for a moment before quickly moving away. Chen Ning found it funny seeing his face turn red. She didn't do anything, but he was already embarrassed. For a moment, she couldn't suppress the thought of teasing him. He. She suddenly bit his chest and said in a hateful voice, "Why did you come so late, making me?" Her voice choked and her eyes turned red. Mo Chuan's hand tightened and his heart filled with pain. Mo Chuan's heart. Because he was the same as her, he never thought that there would be an intruder in this remote courtyard, and he didn't dare to stay by the side of the hot spring. He was afraid that if he heard the sound of her bathing inside, he would be distracted and lose control of himself. Chapter 5:16. When he rushed over, the scene that he saw almost made his blood boil. He saw a strange man grab her and press her against the side of the pool. Her lips were stained with bright red blood, and it was shocking to the eyes. Her complexion was like snow, her hair was like clouds, and her smooth, snow-white shoulders were exposed outside the pool. It was clear that she was not wearing a single piece of clothing. Even he almost had a nosebleed when he saw this scene. Which man in this world could resist such temptation? In the time he wasn't here, what had happened? He almost did not dare think about it. It's my fault, I didn't make it in time. His heart twisted into a ball and the pain was hard to endure. It was because of his negligence that he made such a big mistake, causing her to suffer this kind of humiliation. He would take responsibility for his mistake. His arms tightly hugging her, he quickly ran into a room and placed her on the bed. He pulled a brocade blanket over her body, covering her tightly, only revealing her black hair and her snow-white face. He sat on the side of the bed and stared at her without blinking. Her eyes were slightly red, and there were tears in her big, clear eyes. She looked at him like a child who had been wronged, and it made his heart wrench. Suddenly, he reached out his hand and covered her eyes. If she kept looking at him like that, he would feel so guilty that he would cut himself a few times. I will find that man and chop him up bit by bit to feed the dogs. As long as he is dead, you will still be clean. He said this word for word. His voice was as cold as a knife and was filled with a bone-chilling intent. Chen Ning's eyes opened wide as she was stunned. What did he mean? When was she not clean? Feeling her tremble, he immediately hugged her tightly and firmly said in her ear, "No matter what happened just now, you have to forget it and never think about it again. I don't care, I really don't care. In my heart, you will always be the same, never changing at all." Chen Ning bit her lips, trying not to laugh as her body trembled. Oh. His imagination was too rich. Did he think that the man had done something to her? Alright, this misunderstanding was caused by her. She just wanted to test his reaction. If she was really... What would he do? She was very satisfied with his answer. Mo Chuan, do you want to know what just happened? She suddenly whispered in his ear. His body instantly froze and he quickly shook his head. No, if you don't want to say it, you don't need to tell me. I know everything. But you clearly don't know anything. She gently blew into his ear and without any surprise, she saw a red blush spread from his ear to his neck. On the boat, she had already noticed that his ear was too sensitive. She had accidentally bit it and his arm had lost strength, causing her to fall into the river. Ning, stop playing. Mo Chuan did his best to control his breathing as he held her shoulders. He gritted his teeth and said, "All right, tell me, just what happened." She blinked innocently and said, "Actually, nothing happened." Chapter 5:17. After she said that, she blinked her big, bright, and innocent eyes at him. He stared at her and then let out a soft sigh. So it was like this. It was not as serious as he had imagined. But why did he think it was this serious? It was clearly her deliberately making him misunderstand, making him think that something serious had happened. He wasn't stupid at all. He could clearly see that there was a faint smile in her eyes that was pretending to be innocent. This mischievous girl, she was trying to scare him and tease him again. Could it be that she didn't know that her words almost made him want to bang his head against the wall in guilt? If it wasn't for the fact that she had just been frightened, he really wanted to turn her over and give her a good spanking on her butt. Chen Ning's brows slowly stood up when she saw him. Her eyes slowly filled with anger and the lines on her chin tightened. This is bad. She had gone too far. She had angered this temperamental man again. I'm tired, I want to sleep. You should leave now. She pulled up the blanket and covered herself up like an ostrich. You're tired. You want to sleep. She heard his words through the blanket and forcefully nodded. Perfect, this one is also tired and wants to sleep. How about you serve this one in bed? He openly took off his shoes and laid down beside her, reaching out to pull her blanket. Her eyes widened, and she almost doubted her own ears. What did he say? Serve in bed. She could not react for a moment. The blanket was pulled away by him and he entered her bed, bringing with him a cool aura. She had just shivered when he suddenly hugged her. His body was warm as he tightly pressed against her. She only had a thin layer of clothes on her body and her delicate skin was very sensitive. When he hugged her, she suddenly revealed a smile. All right, I'll serve in bed for you. I've never served in bed before, so teach me, how do I serve in bed? She became interested and her cherry red lips opened as she chattered on. Mo Chuan was stunned and the arm holding her suddenly stiffened. Bedside service, it means to sleep with you, right? How are you going to sleep with your clothes on? I'll help you take off your clothes. Woo, why is your belt so tight? Why can't it be undone? Alright, it's finally undone. I've taken off my clothes, do you want to take off your pants? She tore herself from his arms and began to unbuckle his belt, unfasten his coat, and touch the waistband of his trousers. Mo Chuan was completely stunned. He never thought that his beloved girl would be this bold and wild, simply. Was he the man or was she the man? He had originally wanted to use the word bed service to scare her, but he had never thought that the person who was scared was himself. Ning, stop messing around. The corner of his mouth twitched as he tightly held onto his pants, afraid that she would pull it down. Chen Ning giggled. Seeing his increasingly red face, she smiled and said, "Don't you want to sleep?" Do you usually sleep with your pants on? Mo Chuan's eyes turned dark and he took a deep breath. His hands grabbed her hands that were moving around his waist and he said in a deep voice, "Be obedient and don't move, otherwise." He looked at her with a threatening gaze. She was not afraid at all as she raised her brows and said with a smile, "Otherwise what?" Chapter 5:18. She liked to see him blush when she teased him. It was much better than his usual indifferent face without any makeup. Especially when he used the word bed service to scare her. When she heard it, she almost couldn't help laughing. This Mo Chuan, how could he be this cute? Mo Chuan didn't know what to do with her at all. He was now suspecting that the girl he liked was a demoness. She wasn't afraid of anything other people were afraid of. Not only did she dare say what other people didn't dare say, she even dared to do it. She even dared to take off his pants. Looking at the entire world, there was no one who dared to take off his dragon pants like this. She was definitely the first and the last. Ning. He held her and turned around, pressing her under his body. "What, you don't want me to sleep with you?" She looked at him with a smile. "I do, but not now. Wait until the day we consummate our marriage," he gently said as he gently looked at her. That intoxicated spring water-like eyes instantly melted her. "All right," she said in a soft voice. She put away her smile and stopped joking around. Her heart was filled with warmth and her eyes were hazy like she was drunk. She slowly reached out her arms and wrapped them around his neck. Looking up, she gently kissed his chin. Mo Chuan's throat slightly moved. He looked down at her pink lips and almost couldn't help kissing them. But he couldn't. His heart was already running wild. If he kissed her, the consequences would be unimaginable. After spending a lot of effort, he finally controlled himself to leave her. He wrapped the blanket around her and placed a kiss on her forehead before saying in a soft voice, "Go to sleep." He looked at her with pity. Her eyes were dim like stars. She was clearly tired, but she was still forcing herself to talk to him. Actually, he was the same. He always felt that the time he spent with her passed very quickly. It was like they only spoke a few words and time flew by like water. But he could only stay by her side for this little bit. When she woke up, he would have to send her back to the eldest princess palace and he didn't know when they would meet again. "I'm not sleepy, I want to talk to you." She couldn't bear to close her eyes. When she opened them again, she didn't know if she could see him again. "No, be a good girl and sleep for me," he habitually ordered her. "I'm not sleeping." She stubbornly opened her eyes wide. "Sleep. Then, tell me a story. Maybe I'll fall asleep while listening to it." She rolled her eyes. She didn't want to hear a story, she just wanted to hear his clear voice like flowing water. No matter what he said, she would be happy to hear it. "Story?" He was stunned and shook his head. "I don't know how." "You've never heard a story? When you were young, didn't the Empress Dowager tell you stories to coax you to sleep?" she asked curiously. "No, never." He shook his head again, and a hint of sadness flashed across his eyes. From the beginning of his memories, he had never heard of any stories. Although Empress Dowager Zhou was his birth mother, he was taken away from Empress Dowager Zhou's side when he was born. According to the rules of the palace, a birth mother could not directly raise an imperial child, so he grew up with a wet nurse. The wet nurse was only responsible for taking care of his food and daily life. How could she tell him stories to coax him to sleep? Chapter 5:19. As he grew older, he began to study politics. Until he ascended to the throne, he talked about military matters every day and talked about the heroes of the world. How could he tell stories to coax people to sleep? It's fine, I'll tell you stories in the future. Chen Ning saw a flash of sadness in his eyes and understood something. She reached out from the blanket and slowly held his large palm. Her palm was as soft as cotton. He gently held it, not willing to use too much strength as he revealed a faint smile to her. All right, then tell me a story. I want to hear the story of the Big Bad Wolf and Little Red Riding Hood. He thought of the night she got drunk and kept saying she was Little Red Riding Hood. He had always been curious, what was Little Red Riding Hood? He had never heard of it before. Pooh! When Chen Ning heard this, she almost spat out. Her bright eyes popped out and all of her drowsiness flew away. She stared at Mo Chuan with incomparable shock. How did he know about the Big Bad Wolf and Little Red Riding Hood? Could it be Mo Chuan? You also transmigrated here? She excitedly sat up. What transmigrated here? Mo Chuan did not understand. The Big Bad Wolf and Little Red Riding Hood. If you didn't transmigrate here, how would you know this story? Quickly tell me, what era did you transmigrate from? Are you also a Chinese? Chen Ning could not control the excitement in her heart. Her hands tightly grabbed Mo Chuan's hand as her cheeks turned red and her eyes sparkled. This was truly a long drought meeting sweet dew, meeting an old friend in a foreign land. Ning, what Chinese are you talking about? What era? Mo Chuan was confused. The more he heard, the more confused he became. He knit his brows and looked at her with doubt. Ning, are you too sleepy? Why are your words becoming more and more confused? Do you not even remember what era it is now? What are Chinese? I am the West Chu Emperor and we are all from West Chu. He broke free of her hand and felt her forehead. He felt that it was a bit hot, so he placed her back in the blanket and seriously said, obediently lie down, I'll find a doctor to see you. Chen Ning began to realize that she had made a big mistake and her face became even hotter. Don't find a doctor, I'm fine. This blanket is just too thick and too hot. She reached out from the blanket and grabbed his clothes. Tell me, how do you know about the Big Bad Wolf and Little Red Riding Hood? Damn, when you were drunk, you said you were Little Red Riding Hood and I was the Big Bad Wolf. You also said that I would eat you. What? You don't remember. He revealed a faint smile. Thinking of that night, he felt a warm feeling. Damn, why do I keep saying nonsense when I'm drunk? I actually don't remember. I don't know. She rubbed her head in regret and looked at him with a guilty conscience. She stammered, that. Mo Chuan, did I say anything I shouldn't have said that day? She couldn't possibly have told him that she was a transmigrator, right? Mo day. Chen of the matter. Chen of to the topic, he. When Chen Ning heard this, her heart became even more guilty. She said in a small voice, then tell me, what did I say that I shouldn't have said? It's all words that should be beheaded. He displayed the dignity of an emperor and said in a deep voice, do you want this one to repeat them to you? She became even more curious and nodded. Anyways, he wasn't willing to cut off her head. Not only did you curse this one, you even hit this one. Have you forgotten all of this? Chapter 520. I scolded you and hit you. She shook her head, how could I hit you? Humph, you said this one is a white-bearded old man and Xiao Si is a toothless old eunuch. You don't remember any of this, right? He gave a soft snort, secretly finding it funny. Chen Ning gave a poochie laugh. She rubbed her stomach and couldn't stand up straight from her laughter. You lied to me, you made me sound like a fool. She giggled. She couldn't understand why someone as smart as herself would say such silly words when she was drunk. It was so embarrassing. Ning, He suddenly looked at her in a serious manner. In the future, other than when you're with this one, you're not allowed to drink, do you understand? He said with a serious expression. Why? She looked at him with a puzzled expression. Are you worried that I'll scold you when I'm drunk? Of course not. He shook his head. Then why? He raised his hand and stroked her red lips with a finger. With a smile that wasn't a smile, he said, because when you're drunk, you'll take the initiative to kiss me. If you're drunk with someone else, aren't you afraid this one will be jealous and take that person's head? Ah. Nonsense. Chen Ning's face instantly turned red as she felt embarrassed and angry. How could she do this kind of thing? I've never lied to you before. This one is the emperor and my words carry weight. Do you think this one would lie? He held back his laughter. I'm not listening, don't say any more. She suddenly pulled the blanket over her head, not revealing her head no matter what he said. She never thought that she would be this bold when drunk. Could it be that their first time was initiated by her? For this kind of matter, shouldn't he be the one taking the initiative? But why couldn't she remember it at all? Ning-er, Ning-er. He pulled the blanket over her and she tightly held on to it. Mo Chuan's eyes were filled with a smile. Did this daring girl finally know how to be shy? Why didn't she know how to be shy when she pulled off his pants? He still had more important things to tell her. Ning-er, do you want to know, after you were drunk last night, what else did you say to me? What did you do? He purposely slowed down his voice, teasing her. She pulled the blanket even tighter and a muffled voice came from under the blanket. No, I don't want to know a single word. She felt that she must have been embarrassed. She must have said many ridiculous things and done many ridiculous things. Suddenly, the blanket in her hands was lifted by him. His face that was like a distant mountain appeared in front of her. You don't want to hear it, but I must ask you. What you said last night, was it true? He looked at her very seriously. What? She asked in a daze. You said. He said, you. He would never forget the shock and agitation he felt when she said those words. Chen, him. Ah. Chen Ning let out another shocked cry as her hands tightly covered her face. Ning said. Chin, I am. She was embarrassed and angry. She couldn't help glaring at him. If she didn't like him, why would she take the initiative to kiss him? Did he want to force her to say it? Chapter 521. It's true, every word is true. Mo Chuan, I like you, I really like you. She was ready to go all out. Since there was only the two of them here, there was no need for her to be shy. She had said and done things that were more shy than this, so what was there for her to be afraid of? Mo Chuan smiled. He liked her like this. She would never be like those hypocritical rich young ladies. If she dared to do something, she dared to say it. The only bad thing was that her words made him fly into the sky. If she didn't give him a ladder, he didn't know how to get down. Mo Chuan, I like you. Then, do you like me? She raised her eyelashes and looked at him with eyes as bright as the stars. Silly girl, did you even need to ask this? He gently looked at her with eyes as deep as water, like intoxicating wine. She didn't need to drink it to be intoxicated by his eyes. I like you, I really like you. He replied in a low voice, each word coming from the bottom of his heart. He lowered his head and his forehead touched hers. He pulled her hand and placed it on his chest, letting her feel his heart beating faster and faster. Ning-er, can you feel it? Can you feel how much I like you? His heart powerfully beat in her hand. I've placed you here, no one can take you away from here. No one can do it. In this world, there was nothing sweeter and more intoxicating than the words between lovers. Chen Ning felt like her entire body had been submerged in this intoxicating sea of honey. She closed her eyes and leaned against him, feeling his strong and powerful heartbeat. Even the sound of his heartbeat was so pleasant to listen to. Feel it and see how fast this heart is beating. It's beating for you. Suddenly, a strong and powerful voice sounded in her ears. She was surprised and opened her eyes, feeling incomparably shocked. It was Chu Xiaoyang. This voice clearly belonged to Chu Xiaoyang. A sharp pain suddenly came from the depths of her chest and her face lost all color. Her chest was so tight that she couldn't breathe. She forcefully grabbed the clothes on her chest and revealed a painful look. Chu Xiao Yang. She muttered these 3 words. Ning what's wrong? What did you say? Mo Chuan hugged her. She fell into his embrace with a face as white as paper. Her eyes were tightly closed and she had already fainted. Ning Ning He loudly shouted in her ears, but she did not move at all. Her face was snow white and her hair was black. She was so quiet that it seemed like she was asleep. Mo Chuan's heart was being grabbed by an invisible hand. His face turned as white as paper and his lips trembled, not daring to test her breathing. Why did she suddenly faint? What did he say? What did he do? His fingers trembled as he tried to feel her breathing, but he felt that her breathing was very faint. Unable to avoid suspicion, he pressed his face against her chest to listen to her heartbeat. Her heartbeat was erratic, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. She was to say. As long as she was still breathing, he would never let anything happen to her. There were the best imperial physicians in the court of imperial physicians. She would definitely wake up, definitely. He wrapped her up tightly in the brocade quilt and held her in his arms. Just as he stepped out of the room, he suddenly felt the sunlight piercing his eyes. Chapter 522. The most important thing was that he had forgotten one of his most important duties as the emperor, morning court. Ever since he ascended the throne, he had been diligent every day, doing everything himself, never missing morning court. Even when he was pretending to be an assassin and acting as her bodyguard, he did not miss a single day. But today, he had completely forgotten about it. But he couldn't care about it now. To him, there was nothing more important than her. Mo Chuan's brows flashed with a determined look. He tightly hugged her and released his qinggong, flying towards the royal city. At the same time, Empress Dowager Zhou in the Longevity Palace received the news and her face filled with rage. What did you say? The emperor doesn't have morning court. Then where is he now? Call him over for this widow. She had always been calm and composed, but now she raised her hand and smashed her most beloved teacup. Empress Dowager, please calm your anger. The emperor is not in the palace right now and this servant has already sent people to find the emperor. Once there is news, I will immediately report it to the Empress Dowager. Su Jin carefully replied. Go to the eldest princess palace. Empress Dowager Zhou spoke again in a cold voice. The emperor is also not in the eldest princess palace. Su Jin hesitated. Not in. Impossible. Empress Dowager Zhou sat on the couch while panting. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. She forcefully slapped the table and shouted, Go to the eldest princess palace and summon the Ding Yuan princess into the palace. Su Jin shook her head and said, This servant has already sent people to find her, but the princess is not in the palace. When Empress Dowager Zhou heard this, her face turned livid and her hands couldn't stop trembling. Could it be, the emperor eloped with that girl surnamed Qin. Impossible. She had watched the emperor grow up and she had spent a lot of effort to raise him. He had the heavy responsibility and lifeline of the West Chu country on his shoulders. He definitely would not do such a disgraceful and reckless thing. However, Empress Dowager Zhou pondered this and her two thin brows knit together. No matter how rational and calm the emperor was, he was still a young man in his 20s. How could he resist the temptation of a charming girl like this? If the two of them were impulsive and did something that couldn't be controlled, what should they do? Even if the two of them didn't elope, not returning for the night and making the emperor forget to go to court, what good thing could they do? She was filled with regret now. Why did she not get rid of that girl earlier because of her soft heart, causing this kind of hard-to-deal-with result? Then tell eldest Princess Enlu to immediately come to the palace to see this widow. The person is not in her palace, this widow will just find her to find. If it wasn't for this girl being a busybody, that girl's surname Qin would have already returned to the King Ding Yuan palace. How could she give the emperor a chance? This widow must properly teach this girl a lesson. Empress Dowager Zhou was filled with rage, instantly venting her anger on eldest Princess Enlu. Empress Dowager, this servant has something to say, but I don't know if I should say it or not. Su Jin looked at Empress Dowager Zhou's expression. Although she was afraid, she still bravely said this. Princessin, eldest Tututu. Su Su of, Day Su Su, Su, B B B to B to B, 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 B. Su Jin, you're getting bolder and bolder. Under Empress Dowager Zhou's rage, she even went against Su Jin. With a sweep of her hand, all the teacups on the table fell to the ground. Empress Dowager, please calm your anger, it is this servant's fault. If you are angry, you can just scold this servant, please don't harm your body. Chapter 523. You think that after serving this widow for so many years, this widow can't bear to hit or punish you? Empress Dowager Zhou coldly said without any expression on her face. This servant accepts the beating and punishment. Alright, this widow will punish you with 2 years of salary. What did you want to say just now? Empress Dowager Zhou relaxed her tone. Su Jin bit her lips and said in a small voice, Empress Dowager, for the emperor and the princess' reputation, this servant feels that it is not good to make a big fuss about this. How about we send people to secretly search for the emperor? This servant believes that the emperor will not disappoint the Empress Dowager's expectations. There should be an accident that happened, so the emperor did not have time to come back for morning court. Her words were like a bucket of cold water that poured over Empress Dowager Zhou's head, instantly extinguishing a lot of her anger. Not bad, not bad. In Empress Dowager Zhou's anger, she had forgotten about this point. She slowly nodded and said to Su Jin, stand up. What you say is reasonable, immediately send people to secretly search for the emperor. As for eldest Princess Enlu, give this widow a decree and have her reflect on her mistakes. Without this widow's decree, she is not allowed to take a single step out of the palace. When Su Jin heard this, she let out a sigh of relief and replied, yes, Empress Dowager. This servant will do it now. When she turned to leave, she was stopped by Empress Dowager Zhou. Go, bring that Xiao Si by the emperor's side for this widow. This widow has something to ask him. Yes. Su Jin complied and left. She was secretly breaking out in a cold sweat for Xiao Si. When Xiao Si heard Empress Dowager Zhou's call, his body was covered in sweat. He instinctively knew that this was bad. The emperor was missing and even he, a personal eunuch, did not know where he was. If the Empress Dowager asked about it, he would not be able to escape the blame. If Empress Dowager Zhou was angered, a light punishment would be a beating on his butt. If it was heavy, perhaps his head would be removed from his neck. Aunt Su-jin, can you tell Xiao-si, why is the Empress Dowager calling the servant? He followed behind Su-jin, walking to the peaceful life palace while asking this question in an uneasy manner. Su-jin angrily looked at him. You still have the face to ask. You've lost the emperor and the Empress Dowager is looking for you. Xiao-si's expression immediately became bitter. Aunt Su-jin, aren't you wrongly accusing the servant? This leg was grown on the emperor's leg and the emperor's martial arts were so good, so he could go wherever he wanted. Xiao-si was only a servant, how could he control the emperor's wishes? If the Empress Dowager blames me, I ask Aunt Su-jin to say a few good words for me. Su-jin gave a snort. Su-jin, I only you say one thing, this servant will be the Su many years, many years of many good. Su many people. When Xiao-si heard this, he was so scared that his legs went soft. Auntie Su-jin, this servant won't go see the Empress Dowager. You've served the Empress Dowager for so many years, but the Empress Dowager was angry and punished you with 2 years of salary. If this servant says anything wrong, I won't be able to keep my head. Many. Do you dare to disobey the Empress Dowager's summons? Dower, this many, you many, you dare to go. Dower the Su, Dowager Su, many high, you, the Su to the one. Aunt Su-jin, this servant really doesn't know anything. Xiao-si almost knelt down to her. Although he knew martial arts, he did not dare struggle. He allowed Su-jin to pull his ear and bring him in front of Empress Dowager Zhou. Chapter 524. Empress Dowager Zhou had already recovered her calm demeanor. She picked up a cup of hot tea and slowly blew away the floating leaves. After taking a sip, she looked up at Xiao-si who was kneeling below. Su-jin, leave and close the door. She said in a calm voice, without a trace of anger in her voice. Xiao-si's body suddenly trembled as he felt his heart skip a beat. The Empress Dowager had even sent out her most trusted Su-jin, this was a bad prelude. After Su-jin left, Empress Dowager Zhou remained silent. Her eyes were slightly closed, like she was resting. The atmosphere in the room was very heavy and subtle. Xiao-si did not dare make a sound, afraid of waking up Empress Dowager Zhou. Even if his knees hurt from kneeling, he did not dare make a single sound. If he could, he would rather keep kneeling like this. It would be best if the Empress Dowager really fell asleep and forgot about him. But things didn't go as he wished. When he was trying his best to reduce his presence, he heard Empress Dowager Zhou's voice ring out. Xiao-si, you're still not willing to speak. Empress Dowager Zhou's voice was calm and her face was even calmer, but Xiao-si's heart was in his throat. He lowered his eyes as he replied, whatever the Empress Dowager wants to ask, this servant will tell you everything I know. However, this servant really does not know the Emperor's whereabouts. I asked the Empress Dowager to investigate. Stop trying to act dumb in front of this widow. What this widow wants to know, you know it in your heart. This servant is terrified, this servant really does not know what the Empress Dowager wants to ask. How could Xiao-si not understand what Empress Dowager Zhou wanted to know, but he did not want to betray his master, so he tightly clenched his teeth. Paw! The hot tea in Empress Dowager Zhou's hand fell onto the golden brick floor in front of him. The hot tea splashed onto his face and body, but he did not dare make a sound. He could only grit his teeth and endure the pain. Xiao-si, stop playing tricks in front of this widow. This widow is not easy to fool, it's best if you tell me everything about how your master met the Qin family's girl. If you tell a single lie, this widow won't kill you. This widow will send you to the Clear Breeze house and you won't be able to raise your head in front of your master for the rest of your life. Empress Dowager Zhou's voice was as cold as ice. Clear Breeze house. Xiao-si shivered violently. Of course he knew what kind of place the Clear Breeze restaurant was. It was the most famous restaurant in the capital. The Empress Dowager was truly ruthless. If he really sent himself in, within 3 days, he wouldn't even look like a human or a ghost. Even if Master found him, how would he have the face to return to Master's side to serve him? Empress or not? Empress of Empress Dowager Zhou said. Empress Dowager Zhou of Qi. Emo Dowager Zhou said. Dowager Zhou Emo Dowager Shi, and said looked up. Dowager said. Dowager Empress and said. Breeze Dowager said and said. Empress. Dowager of Shi Dowager Qin said. Empress, Empress Dowager, this servant, actually doesn't know much. Xiao Si gritted his teeth. He had no choice but to tell him how his master left the palace, how he met Qin Ning several times, and how his master disguised himself as an assassin to be Qin Ning's bodyguard in the King Ding Yuan palace. He told him everything in detail. Chapter 525. Empress Dowager Zhou finished listening without saying a word. Although her face was expressionless, her heart was filled with waves. She had always thought that her son fell in love with Qin Ning at first sight during the spring banquet. She was angry at her son's actions and hated Qin Ning even more. She must have wanted to climb up the ladder, so she seduced the emperor. Who would have thought that after learning of the matter, she would find that the one to blame was not Qin Ning, but rather her son who was the emperor. Listen to what he had done. He actually abandoned his position as the emperor and called himself an assassin to be that girl's bodyguard in the king's palace. If it wasn't for Xiao Si personally saying it, she would not have believed that the calm and steady emperor's son would do such a strange thing. Speaking of this matter couldn't be blamed on that girl's surname Qin. It was all her son's fault. When he became that girl's bodyguard, perhaps he had already been moved by that girl. But he clearly knew who that girl was. That was his niece's wife-in-law. How could he have these kinds of thoughts towards his niece's wife-in-law? Empress Dowager Zhou became angrier and angrier the more she thought about it. She couldn't breathe as she coughed and rolled her eyes. Empress Dowager. Xiao Si saw that the situation was bad. He jumped up and began to massage Empress Dowager Zhou's back. After a while, Empress Dowager Zhou finally caught her breath, but her expression was extremely ugly. She looked up at Xiao Si and raised her hand. Paw! She gave Xiao Si a loud and clear slap on the face. It's all your dog servant's fault. A good emperor has been led astray by you dog servants. Xiao Si quickly kneeled down. Yes, yes, yes. Although he had suffered a large slap, the stone in his heart fell to the ground. This was because he could hear that Empress Dowager Zhou's tone had become a bit gentler. She probably wouldn't send him to the Clear Breeze house in a fit of anger, so he couldn't help secretly wiping the sweat off his forehead. Empress Dowager Zhou rubbed her forehead and felt her temples throbbing with pain. This was truly a troublesome matter. When she found that this matter was more troublesome than she had imagined. The emperor actually did this kind of thing. It was completely out of her expectations. She couldn't help feeling disappointed and heartache. No, she had to take advantage of this situation before it got out of hand and cut off this ill-fated relationship for her son. No matter what, she couldn't let that girl ruin the emperor and ruin the West Chu country. Empress Dowager. Reporting to the Empress Dowager. The Empress Dowager. Su Jin's excited voice came from outside the room. Hearing this, Empress Dowager Zhou and Xiao Si's eyes lit up. Empress Dowager came from the bed and personally opened the door. Go, call the emperor over for me. Empress Dowager Zhou's Zhou raised her brows raised. King. Su. Empress Dowager Zhou's brows jumped up. Speak, where is the emperor? Empress Dowager, the emperor is now in the imperial hospital. Empress Dowager Dowager Su, King Dowager, Qing, Dowager Mu, she said. Quickly prepare the sedan, I am going to the Imperial Hospital. She rushed out and Su Jin hurriedly supported her, saying in a low voice, Empress Dowager, don't be anxious. His Majesty is fine, but something has happened to the princess. Chapter 526. When Empress Dowager Zhou heard this, she slowly nodded, very good. Go prepare the sedan, this widow will go to the doctor yard to see what kind of illness this princess has. She once again recovered her noble appearance, but Su Jin's heart suddenly turned cold. She couldn't help staring at Xiao Si. What did this brat say to the Empress Dowager? Asterisk in the doctor yard. With Dr. Zhang as the leader, several dozen doctors surrounded the bed, taking the pulse of the unconscious Chen Ning. After the doctors took her pulse, they all had serious expressions. No one said a word and everyone looked at Dr. Zhang at the same time. In the entire doctor yard, Dr. Zhang was the oldest and had the best medical skills. He was also the most trusted by the Emperor and the Empress Dowager. Therefore, all the imperial physicians followed his lead. Dr. Zhang stroked his snow-white goatee and his brows knit in thought. His eyes fell onto Chen Ning's face on the bed and after thinking about it, he reached out to take the pulse of her left hand. Mo Chuan's calm face couldn't help revealing a look of worry. He stared at Dr. Zhang without blinking and finally waited for Dr. Zhang to take back his hand. He immediately asked in a deep voice, Dr. Zhang, what illness does she have? Why did she suddenly faint? When will she wake up? Dr. Zhang shook his head, but he didn't say a word. Mo Chuan's heart tightened again and his breathing stopped. His handsome face turned pale. Emperor, don't worry. This old minister's meaning is that the princess consort isn't sick at all. Dr. Zhang looked up to see Mo Chuan's expression. He was shocked and quickly explained. Not sick. If she's not sick, why would she suddenly faint? Why hasn't she woken up? Mo Chuan couldn't help knitting his brows. He always believed in Dr. Zhang's medical skills, but at this moment, he was filled with doubt. On the way back, no matter how he called out to her, she did not respond at all. If it wasn't for the fact that her heart was still beating and her body was still warm, he would have thought that he had lost her. This feeling of worrying to death almost tortured him to the point of insanity. He thought that Dr. Zhang would be able to cure her with his medical skills, but he never thought that Dr. Zhang would give him an answer, not sick. Emperor, this old minister has a few words to say to the Emperor alone. Dr. Zhang suddenly said. Mo Chuan was a bit stunned. Then he waved his hand and all the doctors in the room left. Even the maids and eunuchs in the room disappeared. After everyone left, Mo Chuan's eyes sparkled as he stared at Dr. Zhang. His voice slightly trembled as he said, Dr. Zhang, tell me the truth, is it her? She has an incurable disease. Dr. Zhang immediately shook his head. He looked at Mo Chuan with a complicated expression before lowering his head and saying, this old minister wants to ask the emperor, when the princess consort fainted, was the emperor by the princess consort's side? Mo Chuan immediately understood what Dr. Zhang wanted him to tell everyone to leave. Dr. Zhang's words. His eyes. His face, Mo Ling, he said, Chen Ning, Ling, he said, he, Ning, I, Dr. Zhang couldn't help coughing. Mo Chuan's answer was within his expectations, but also outside of his expectations. Chapter 527. This time it was Mo Chuan's turn to be shocked. His eyes turned to Dr. Zhang and he nodded, yes. Woo, then this old minister understands. The reason why the princess consort suddenly fainted, it must be because of the emperor's words. Dr. Zhang said while stroking his beard. But how could this one's words make her faint? Mo Chuan's heart skipped a beat. He thought back to when he grabbed her hand and told her how much he liked her. Could it be that she fainted from excitement after hearing his confession? Cool. Dr. Zhang began to cough again. His eyes drooped as he said, Emperor, this isn't the first time the princess consort has fainted. Yesterday, the princess consort also fainted like this once. What did you say? Mo Chuan's body trembled as he looked at Dr. Zhang in disbelief. Emperor, please don't be too excited. The princess consort is fine, but she can't seem to be stimulated. As long as she is excited, she will fall unconscious. This old minister gave the princess consort a prescription yesterday that can help her calm her mind, so after the princess consort took the medicine, she quickly woke up. Then hurry up and make the medicine. Mo Chuan couldn't help glaring at him. This old doctor was becoming more and more muddle-headed. He kept talking to him, but he didn't do the most important thing. No need. The princess consort is fine this time. As long as the emperor stays by her side, she will wake up before long. Dr. Zhang stroked his beard again and looked at the emperor with a meaningful gaze. He was very smart, he knew when to stop. For this kind of royal family matter, he only needed to be aware of it. He didn't want to get involved, otherwise he wouldn't even know when he lost his head. Emperor, this old minister wants to leave first. He thought that he had nothing to do here, so it was best if he didn't stick around. Wait a minute. Dr. Zhang, tell this one, yesterday she. Why did she faint? Mo Chuan sat in front of the bed and held her hand. Her fingers were as cold as jade. Since Dr. Zhang had already seen through it, he didn't need to hide it in front of this old doctor. Moreover, he didn't want to keep hiding it. Dr. Zhang's old eyes were so embarrassed that he didn't know where to look. He said in a hesitant voice, when this old minister arrived, the princess consort had already fainted, but King Ding Yuan was by her side. According to this old minister's pulse, the princess consort seemed to have received a strong stimulation, so she fainted. Moreover, after the princess consort took the medicine, she fainted because His Highness was by her side. Chu, Xiao, Yang. Mo Chuan's pupils shrank as he said this word. He suddenly remembered that before she fainted, she had mumbled a name. It was Chu Xiao Yang. The reason why she fainted was definitely related to Chu Xiao. Damn, what did that bastard Chu Xiaoyang say to her and what did he do? Mo Chuan forcefully clenched his fists, wishing he could immediately grab Chu Xiaoyang and ask him about this. Emperor, please don't worry. The princess consort's pulse is already stable and she will wake up soon. This old minister will leave. Dr. Zhang picked up his medicine box and prepared to leave. Dr. Zhang, bring the prescription you gave me yesterday and make another dose. Mo Chuan's expression had already returned to normal. He held Chen Ning's hand and stared at her face without blinking. Her face still didn't have a trace of blood. Chapter 528. Yes. This old minister will go make it now. Dr. Zhang replied as he left. The room was completely silent. Without Mo Chuan's orders, no one dared to come in, so they all stayed far away. Mo Chuan sat in front of the bed, holding her hand with a dark gaze. Although he was sitting there without moving, his heart was not as calm as he looked on the surface. Do. There was a knocking sound coming from the door as a little eunuch came in with the medicine. Get out. He did not even look at the little eunuch. This was because he saw her long and dense eyelashes gently tremble before slowly lifting up. His heart skipped a beat as he tightly held her hand and said in a trembling voice, Ning, you're awake. Chen Ning opened her eyes. Her consciousness was still a bit hazy and the scene she saw was a bit blurry. But she heard a familiar voice. Her lips slightly moved and she spat out 2 words, Mo Chuan. I'm here. She felt her hand being tightly held by a burning hand. Her consciousness slowly came back and she blinked. She saw a pair of deep eyes that were like stars in a cold night. It was Mo Chuan. Her heart suddenly relaxed. What happened to me just now? Where am I? She turned her eyes and found that she was lying on an unfamiliar bed. She was surrounded by an unfamiliar environment and the room was filled with the fragrance of medicine. This is the yard of doctors. When you were in the hot springs, you suddenly fainted, so I brought you here. The doctor has already seen you and you're fine, but you have to drink the medicine first. Mo Chuan's face was very calm and his voice was very gentle. He helped her up and let her lean against his chest. Then he picked up the bowl of medicine and brought it to his lips to test the temperature before bringing it to her lips. I fainted again. She knit her brows and raised her hand to touch her chest. Her heart was still beating, but it had calmed down a lot. And the doctor said that you were too emotional and this medicine has a calming effect. Come, drink the medicine. Chen Ning smelled the strong smell of medicine and wrinkled her nose. She said, I won't drink it. You just said that the doctor said I'm fine. I'm not sick at all, so I don't need to drink medicine. Her childish appearance made his heart soften, but thinking of her body, he still persisted. You have to drink it. He ordered. Woo, I won't drink it. This medicine tastes bad. She turned her head. He stared at her and his eyes darkened a bit. He used 2 fingers to pinch her chin and made her turn to look at him. If you don't drink it, I'll feed it to you. He said in a threatening tone. Even if you feed me, I won't drink it. Before she could finish her sentence, she saw him silently pick up the bowl of medicine and take a big gulp. Before she could react, his lips were already pressed against hers. With the experience of feeding alcohol once, he was already very familiar with the process of feeding medicine again. She was forced to drink a large mouthful of medicine. Her face turned red, and she glared at him in embarrassment and anger. You. His lips pressed against hers again, and the second mouthful of medicine entered her mouth. Mo Chuan, I won't. Woo. The medicine was very bitter, but her heart was very sweet. The bowl of medicine was unknowingly finished, but his lips did not leave her at all. He closed his eyes and kissed her passionately and warmly. A garden bloomed in her heart. Chapter 529. Empress Dowager Zhou's face was livid. Standing outside the window, she saw this scene through the small hole in the window paper. She did not know how long she had been standing outside the window and how long she had been listening. With Mo Chuan's cultivation, he should have noticed that there was someone outside the window a long time ago. But his mind was in a daze, so he did not hear anything. Even if he heard it, he didn't care and didn't care. Although Su Jin did not see anything, seeing Empress Dowager Zhou's expression, she could already imagine what was happening in the room. Her heart began to beat fast and she had a bad premonition. Empress Dowager Zhou left without saying a word. Su Jin quickly followed her. Only when they were far, far away from the yard of doctors did Empress Dowager Zhou slow down. She stood in the long palace road, looking up at a wild goose flying in the sky. Her face had already returned to normal, looking no different from usual. But Su Jin's heart was still beating fast. She stood beside Empress Dowager Zhou, not daring to breathe loudly. Su Jin, has King Jing'an returned? Empress Dowager Zhou suddenly said. Su Jin felt it was a bit strange, but she still respectfully replied, yes, His Highness King Jing'an returned to the capital this morning. Very good. Immediately summon King Jing into the Peaceful Life Palace to see this widow. After Empress Dowager Zhou said this, she coldly looked in the direction of the yard of doctors and said in a deep voice, "That girl can't be kept alive." Su Jin's heart suddenly skipped a beat and she sucked in a cold breath. She said in a trembling voice, "Empress Dowager, could it be that you want His Highness King Jing'an to?" She did not dare say anything else as her hands and feet turned soft from fear. She knew that Empress Dowager Zhou really wanted to kill him this time. That's right. Empress Dowager Zhou's eyes turned cold and her body slightly trembled. She closed her eyes and the scene she had just seen appeared in front of her eyes once again. The good son she had painstakingly raised, the good emperor she had wholeheartedly helped him ascend to the throne, he actually did this kind of shameless thing. No, if she didn't do anything, the emperor would sink deeper and deeper until he couldn't pull himself out. Royal grandmother, you. What did you say? Chu Xiaobai had just stepped into the capital and the first person he came to see was Empress Dowager Zhou. But before he even said a few words, Empress Dowager Zhou sent everyone away and whispered a few words in his ears. When he heard this, his expression changed. He looked at Empress Dowager Zhou with a look of disbelief, almost not daring to believe what he had just heard. Empress Dowager Zhou revealed a tired look. After coming back from the doctor yard, she had been lying in bed the entire time, feeling very tired. She slightly closed her eyes and said to Chu Xiaobai, "Xiaobai, this widow knows that you listen to this widow the most. This widow can't trust anyone on this matter other than you. This widow believes that you won't disappoint this widow, this widow, and this widow, this widow, will." Dowager Zhou, Xiao, and said, "King Dower Xiao's heart, Xiao, Chu. Xiao, to Dower. Dowager's heart, she looked was, Xiao was, Chu. Dower, Chu's heart, said, he said. Chu. He, she, say, he. He, to say, he, Dower. Yiming looking Zhou Empress Dowager Zhou, looking with her, and she looked, long she looked Chu Xiaobai couldn't help asking, "Royal grandmother, why do you want to kill third sister-in-law? Did she do something to betray royal grandmother?" Chapter 530. Chu Xiaobai's face was filled with disbelief. He tightly held Empress Dowager Zhou's hand and begged, "But royal grandmother, didn't you always like third sister-in-law? She even helped you copy the scriptures, did you forget that? How could the words of a fortune-teller count?" Empress Dowager Zhou's face sunk and she revealed a look of displeasure. "Xiaobai, this matter concerns the safety of the country. Even if this widow likes her, we can't put our West Chu in danger for a single girl. The fortune-teller said that if this girl isn't eliminated, West Chu will be in danger. If you can't do it, this widow will find someone else to do it. You just came back, so you must be tired. You should go back and rest." She gave the order for him to leave. "Royal grandmother." Chu Xiaobai wanted to beg again, but Empress Dowager Zhou had already pulled her hand back. She waved at him and said, "You can leave. This widow is tired, so I want to rest." Chu Xiaobai was still kneeling in front of the bed, not moving at all. He forcefully gritted his teeth to the point they creaked, and his jet-black and clear eyes were filled with pain. He knew that Empress Dowager Zhou was not joking, she really would make a move against Qin Ning. He never would have thought that as soon as he returned to the capital, Empress Dowager Zhou would give him this kind of task. It was a task that he couldn't do and it was impossible for him to complete. But if he didn't agree, Empress Dowager Zhou would send someone else to do it. "All right, royal grandmother, this matter. I'll leave it to Xiaobai." His heart was filled with pain, it was like someone was stabbing it with a knife. But he couldn't not agree. He would rather let her die in his hands than allow someone else's knife to be stained with her blood. Xiao Bai, this widow did not misjudge you. You really are the only good child this widow can trust. Empress Dowager Zhou happily patted his shoulder. Chu Xiaobai did not know how he left the peaceful life palace, and he did not know where he was going. He walked through the palace without knowing which direction to go. His heart was filled with pain and he was at a loss. Empress Dowager Zhou's final words rang in his ears. If you don't bring her head back to see this widow, then you don't need to come back. It seemed like Empress Dowager Zhou was determined to take her life. What had happened in the few days he had been away from the capital? Why did the Empress Dowager suddenly change her mind and couldn't tolerate her? He really wanted to find someone to ask about it. But who should he ask? Who could tell him? Su Jin. But when Su Jin saw him, she hid faster than a rabbit. He knew that he couldn't get anything from Su Jin because Su Jin would never betray Empress Dowager Zhou. She wouldn't tell him a single word. But was he really going to kill her? Although she was his third sister-in-law in name, in his heart, she was the only girl he liked in this life. He loved her so much that he couldn't even bear to touch her finger. How could he kill her? He raised his head. His eyes were moist, and everything he saw was a blur. Thinking about it, it was really laughable. The thing that he had risked his life to protect, now he had to personally destroy it. Wasn't this the greatest irony in the world? Chu Xiaobai stopped moving. He had already made his decision. Since he promised Empress Dowager Zhou, he had to do it. In this life, he had never done anything to disappoint Empress Dowager Zhou. Chapter 531. At this moment, Chen Ning had already returned to the eldest princess palace. Mo Chuan wanted to let her stay in the doctor yard, but she insisted on leaving. If she stayed in the palace with her status, she would definitely be criticized by others. She did not want to cause any more trouble for Mo Chuan. Not to mention the fact that the palace gave her an invisible pressure that made it hard for her to breathe. Mo Chuan considered it for a bit before agreeing to her. However, when he thought of Chu Xiaoyang, his brows unknowingly knit together. He knew that Chu Xiaoyang's martial arts were not weak and the eldest princess was far from being his match. If Chu Xiaoyang charged into the eldest princess palace to see her, perhaps none of the guards in the eldest princess palace could stop him. Zhui Feng, come in. He gently clapped his hands. Following that, Chen Ning felt her eyes blur and there was an extra light gray figure in the room. That figure bowed down to Mo Chuan. She stared at that person. She had a photographic memory, so she immediately recognized him. Mo Chuan, is he one of your secret guards? That's right, you've seen him before. Mo Chuan was a bit surprised. Zhui Feng's movements were erratic, he rarely showed himself in front of people. Other than himself and those close to him, there were very few people who had seen his true appearance. Chen Ning said with a faint smile, of course I've seen him. Do you still remember that time in the King Ding Yuan Palace, you sent him to give an imperial edict and sent Xiao Bai out of the capital for a long time? When Chu Xiao Bai's name was mentioned, her eyes dimmed and she couldn't help giving a long sigh in her heart. She had been touched by Xiao Bai's childish innocence. If it wasn't for Xiao Bai suddenly leaving and never coming back, perhaps things would have had a different ending. You did it on purpose that time, right? She bit her lips as she looked at him. Mo Chuan's brows jumped up, yes. Chen Ning was a bit stunned. She never thought that he would directly admit it. Why? Could it be that you don't know why I did it? His eyes looked at her with a soft gaze that couldn't be melted. Her face instantly turned red and she looked down, avoiding his burning gaze. Could it be that he liked her back then? That's why he was jealous of Xiao Bai. However, he lifted her chin and continued to look into her eyes. Not only last time, but this time as well. I did it on purpose because I didn't want to see him always staying by your side and looking at you like a silly goose. That brat doesn't have any good intentions towards you, humph. Chen Ning's face turned red and she couldn't help saying, Xiao Bai is very good to me, he has never bullied me before. I think the one with bad intentions is you and the one bullying me is clearly you. I don't want to drink the medicine, but you force me to drink it. Thinking that he had used that method to feed her medicine, she was angry and embarrassed. Seeing the blush on her face, he faintly smiled and whispered in her ear, if you don't listen, I will continue to feed you medicine like that. Mo Chuan, I dawns. Before she could say anything, he lowered his words, Xiao Ning, Chuan. Chen Ning to Chin Chuck. This was in front of his subordinates. Did he have to go overboard? It wasn't that she didn't want him to kiss her, but she didn't want to be like him, kissing her everywhere and any time. But it was a good thing that he only lightly kissed her and quickly left her lips. He used his finger to touch her red and tender lips and said with a faint smile, next time, you're not allowed to say no to me. Chapter 532. Her face became even redder. It was clear that she had understood his meaning as she fiercely glared at him. He reluctantly looked at her face and suppressed the excitement in his chest. Now was not good, it really was not the time to be intimate with her. Even if he was reluctant, he still had to send her out of the palace. After he finished taking care of this matter, he would give a decree to restore her freedom and openly marry her. He believed that day would not be too far away. Ku, Shui Feng. He gave a soft cough and cleared his throat. This subordinate is here. Shui Feng did not raise his head at all. His mind was in a state of chaos. His eyes stared straight at the bluestone floor, almost piercing a hole through the stone surface. Although he didn't raise his head, the sweet words of the emperor and the girl drilled into his ears, making it impossible for him to not listen. Even if he was a fool or a piece of wood, he could still hear the love between the two of them. His heart couldn't help beating fast and his body was covered in a cold sweat. Your Majesty, what are you trying to do, The other side's identity is the Ding Yuan princess. Even if you don't care about her identity, shouldn't you care about this subordinate? In front of this subordinate, you are being this intimate with the Ding Yuan princess, is that really okay? This subordinate is also a person, not an ignorant piece of wood. He had a large secret in his heart that he was prepared to report to the emperor and shock him. He never thought that the emperor would give him an even bigger shock when he came back. How could Mo Chuan know that Shui Feng's heart was filled with weeds? He held her hand and looked at Shui Feng. Shui Feng, protect her for this one. You have to protect her at all times. If she loses a single hair, this one will hold you responsible. This subordinate will obey the imperial order. Shui Feng felt like he had been hit by 10,000 points. The emperor was actually sending him to protect her. Just how important was she to him? He was a secret guard trained to protect the emperor since he was young. His martial arts in Qinggong were the best, so he was the most trusted and valued by the emperor. But now the emperor was sending him to protect a woman, what would the emperor do? But as a secret guard, he had to obey his master's orders, so he could only agree without any hesitation. Very good. Now you will escort her to the eldest princess palace. During this period of time, you will stay by her side. If there is any movement, immediately tell this one, do you understand? Mo Chuan said in a deep voice. In front of Shui Feng, his emperor's aura was unknowingly released. His gentleness would only be shown to her. This subordinate will obey. Mo Chuan, aye. Chen Ning shook her head. She wanted to say that she did not need any secret guards, but she saw Missouri Chuan place a finger on her lips and look at her with a threatening gaze. She immediately understood that if she dared to say no, he would disregard everything and kiss her. All right, she admitted her defeat. Just like this, under Zhui Feng's escort, she safely returned to the eldest princess palace. Zhui Feng was like a shadow that came and went without a trace. Although she knew that Zhui Feng was not far from her, if he did not show himself, she would not be able to see him. He really was worthy of being Imo Chuan's best secret guard. Chen Ning thought that since Imo Chuan arranged for him to protect her, it meant that Zhui Feng was very strong. Chapter 533. If she took off her clothes to sleep or changed her clothes, he would be waiting in the dark like a tiger watching its prey. Wouldn't he be able to see everything? Chen Ning felt more uneasy the more she thought about it. She felt that she needed to set some rules with this Zhui Feng. Zhui Feng. She followed the signal that Imo Chuan taught her and gently clapped her hands twice. Sure enough, in the next moment, there was an extra gray figure in front of her. She did not know where he had come from. The doors and windows were all tightly shut, but he still appeared like a gentle breeze. Princess consort, why did you call this subordinate? Zhui Feng bowed to her, but he did not kneel down. Chen Ning did not care. She stared at Zhui Feng. Where were you hiding before? This. Zhui Feng replied in a calm voice, please forgive this subordinate for not being able to tell you. This was their secret as a shadow guard, how could he reveal it? Alright, it's fine if you don't say it, but I want to make an agreement with you. She directly went straight to the point. Agreement? Zhui Feng was stunned, please explain it to the princess. I don't care where you usually are, but you can't appear when I'm bathing. Also, you can't appear when I'm sleeping. Zhui Feng understood when he heard this. He said in an awkward voice, this. Please forgive this subordinate for not being able to do it. The emperor has ordered me to protect the princess at all times, but the princess can be assured that this subordinate knows when to look and when not to look. I will not cause any trouble for the princess at all. Chen Ning couldn't help feeling angry. This Zhui Feng's words were as smooth as a loach's. His eyes were on his body, so how could she know when he would open or close his eyes? If the princess does not have any other orders, this subordinate will leave first. After he finished, he did not wait for Chen Ning to say anything before disappearing like a gentle breeze. Chen Ning looked at the closed doors and windows. She was sure that Zhui Feng was hiding in her room. The reason why he came and went without a trace was because he was using a magic trick. Even if she knew he was around, she was not confident she could find him. She could only hope that he would keep his word and do what he said. Xiao Ru. She called out. Very quickly, Xiao Ru opened the door and walked in. Young miss. Xiao Ru's round face was blushing and she was filled with the joy and happiness of youth. Anyone who saw her smiling face would feel refreshed. Chen Ning held her hand with a faint smile and pinched her little apple cheeks. Did you see Xiao Si yesterday? I saw him. This servant talked to Xiao Si for a long time and he told me many good stories. Xiao Ru nodded again and again. At the mention of Xiao Si, her eyes sparkled. Chen Ning saw her innocent smile and couldn't help smiling. She thought about it and then asked, then do you know Xiao Si's identity? I know. He's just a little eunuch. Xiao Ru was still giggling and her expression did not change at all. Then do you know what eunuchs are? I know, the eunuchs are the people that serve the emperor. Young miss, this servant will tell you a big secret. That Richie Rich. Oh, no, bodyguard hey, he is the current emperor. She moved closer to Chen Ning's ear with a mysterious expression and whispered to her. After saying this, she waited to see Chen Ning's shocked expression. Chapter 534. Ah. Young miss, you already knew. Then why didn't you tell the servant? This servant was waiting for you to be surprised. Xiao Ru pouted in disappointment. I wanted to tell you, but I never had the chance. That's right, did the eldest princess leave the palace? She asked. After coming back, she hadn't seen the eldest princess at all, so she couldn't help feeling that it was strange. With the eldest princess' personality, if she was in the palace, the first thing she would do would be to ask her about yesterday's results. Xiao Ru nodded and her face filled with excitement. That's right, I heard that the East Qin country sent a large group of envoys to our capital city, so they set up a banquet in the palace. The eldest princess went to the banquet, so it must be a grand scene. It would be great if we could also go take a look. East Qin envoys. Chen Ning wasn't interested in the banquet at all, but she was a bit surprised by the East Qin envoys. She thought of the 2 times she saw Mo Chuan. He always had a faint look of worry on his face. She asked him about it, but he didn't say anything, so it must have something to do with the East Qin envoys. She knew that she didn't understand politics and couldn't help him with the country's matters. All she could do was quietly wait for him to take care of the country's matters and not give him any trouble. Young miss, let's go out and play, alright? I heard that it's very lively outside right now. The market is filled with people, selling all kinds of food and toys, as well as singers and jugglers. There's everything. Xiao Ru's eyes lit up as she looked at Chen Ning with eyes filled with desire. Chen Ning knew that she was still a child and didn't want to disappoint her, but she didn't know why her heart was beating so fast. So she rubbed her head. You can go play by yourself. I'm very tired and want to sleep for a bit. Ah, then this servant won't go either. This servant will stay here with you. Xiao Ru immediately stuck out her tongue and revealed an embarrassed look. Young miss, your body isn't feeling well, but this servant still wants to play. It's all my fault. When I was your age, I also liked to go out and play like you. How about you wait for me to sleep for a bit? When I wake up, we can go out and watch jugglers, alright? Chen Ning smiled as she rubbed her hair. Alright, alright. Then this servant will stay here and watch over you. Xiao Ru smiled and clapped her hands. Sleep with me. Chen Ning smiled and pulled Xiao Ru onto the bed with her. She pulled the blanket over them. Only when she thought of Zhui Feng hiding in the corner of the room and this man staring at her like a tiger, she felt uncomfortable all over. She bit her lips and was about to think of a way to send Zhui Feng away when she suddenly heard a sound from the window. Then a gray figure flashed in front of her and Zhui Feng was already standing by the bed, standing in front of her and Xiao Ru. Xiao Ru was caught off guard. She suddenly found that there was a man in front of her and instantly screamed out, "Oh! Shoo! Stop shouting!" Zhui Feng immediately turned his hand to cover Xiao Ru's mouth. Who would have thought that his back would be facing Xiao Ru and he didn't have eyes on the back of his head? Xiao Ru moved to Chen Ning's side at this moment and his palm pressed against Xiao Ru's chest. He felt a soft and bouncy feeling and he couldn't help being stunned. Xiao Ru was stunned as her eyes opened wide. Seeing the man's thick palm grab her chest, she was completely scared silly and forgot to dodge at all. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.